Oh, hello everybody. It's getting tense, isn't it? It's getting very tense indeed. We're seeing Max Verstappen taking to the grid. We're seeing Lewis Hamilton taking to the grid, and already tense. I'm just tense. Everything about me is just tense. I haven't even got a dog in this fight. I could not imagine what you guys are thinking about if you are Mercedes or Red Bull fans, because I can't handle it. And as I said, not a fan of either of those two drivers. Antonio, hello, mate. Russell, David, Raul as well. How are we all doing? And Theo in there as well. And Lazarescu. Gonna go for Lazarescu. I hope that's how you say that. But here we go. Hello, lads. Welcome in. We'll give people a second to find their seats, find a stream, and get ready to see what is going on. Did I see the F2 crash? Yes. I mean, F2. I mean, if anything, F2 has shown us today what a dramatic race we're possibly in for this evening. Like, it was just chaos, wasn't it? The whole F2 grid basically just stunned it into silence for a little while. But yeah, hopefully we can have a similar sort of drama to the race. I mean, 2021 has just delivered in every single race, hasn't it? And I can see it delivering again here. Delivered yesterday in qualifying. Should we have a little look at the qualifying board? How we're going to be starting the race for today. We'll go through it in a second, but we'll just see how people get on. Theo / Enzo crash was scary. Apparently Enzo has broken both of his legs. Oh my goodness me. I hadn't seen that news. Maybe that's something I need to just double check before we get going. If that's the case, that is very disappointing for him, isn't it? Hopefully he'll get back from that fairly speedily, but we'll have to wait and see. That is a shame. Let's hope for an accident-free start, Jeff. I think you're optimistic there, Jeff. A little bit optimistic. I think we're going to see some sort of incident, possibly a red flag in this race at some point. What have we seen? We've seen Leclerc in the wall. We've seen lots of people getting... I think the problem is blue flags are even going to be a little bit contentious around here. Like, even your likes of Mazepin, Schumacher, if it is Stroll, Vettel, Latifi that are all rounding out the back of the field, you know, when Lewis Hamilton, Valtteri Bottas, Max Verstappen are catching up to them and trying to lap them later on in this race, it's gonna be really busy on the track. And we saw yesterday how much traffic there is when there's 20 cars going around this Grand Prix, and it is very, very tight. Like, most of the corners around here, if you get one thing wrong, it's gone. We saw, obviously, Max Verstappen, one tiny little mistake, the tiniest little front left lockup, and it just sent him barreling into the wall. We've seen the same with Carlos Sainz yesterday, Charles Leclerc in FP3. Like, we are going to see these drivers make mistakes, and we are going to see lots and lots of drama, whether that is just them making a mistake, whether that is the blue flags, as I was saying, and people trying to get out of the way of each other at really high speeds around here. 3 DRS zones. It's going to be very, very busy. And I would not like to be in the shoes of the likes of Lewis Hamilton and Max Verstappen when so much is on the line. And so much could go very, very wrong with the tiniest of mistakes. This could be a massive turning point for the World Championship. Should we talk a little bit about the starting grid and how we are getting... Hello, Manev. How are we doing? Thoughts on the F2 crash? Just horrible, to be honest with you. Like, not what you want to see. Not what you want to see. Obviously, very young drivers in Formula 2 trying to make their way through into Formula 1. And it's the kind of thing that will knock their confidence massively, won't it? But they're Formula 1 drivers at the end of the day, or they're hoping to be Formula 1 drivers. And we've seen Formula 1 drivers just bounce back. Like Charles Leclerc, FP3, that was a terrifying crash. Absolutely terrifying in free practice. And then yesterday just pops it in 4th place. Like, it just really didn't affect him any way whatsoever. He was still on the absolute limit. Obviously, I don't know about the injuries. People saying that there might have been a few broken legs. Or who's it? Theo earlier on said that possibly Enzo broke his legs, and I really hope not. But you know, it was a huge crash, and as I said, super high speed around Saudi Arabia. So it wouldn't surprise me. Oh, you can mention me as Alex. I feel like I should try at least to say full names, but thank you for that. Appreciate it. It's way easier, I think. Yeah, that's very, very true. Okay, let's run through the starting grid then, as we've got about 25 minutes or so until lights out. Lewis Hamilton took pole position yesterday. Possibly one of the most undeserved pole positions he will get in his Formula One career, because Max Verstappen was nearly 4/10 of a second up on Lewis Hamilton going into the final corner. It looked all wrapped up to be Max Verstappen on pole position. And then suddenly, just that, as I said, tiny little mistake, tiny little front left lockup. The rear right tyre coming into contact with the wall. The back end just steps out, then flicks around, hits the front end of the car into the wall as well, and has to retire the car right at the end of the session at the death of qualifying 3. And he does only start third, though. I feel like people have over-dramatized it a little bit, saying, oh, this could be it for Verstappen. It's going to have a massive effect on the title. Yes, of course it will. But it's not like he's starting from the back of the grid. Luckily, those Red Bull guys have been able to put together the pieces of the car again. Whether we'll see something like Charles Leclerc in Monaco, though, when they thought they'd put the car back together again, and then suddenly there was a little issue on the other side, could end up being one of those evenings for Max Verstappen if he isn't careful. So we'll just keep our fingers crossed and hope that Max Verstappen's car is fully working and fully ready and ready to go. In between those two title rivals, though, is the man Valtteri Bottas, the man who midweek I said was going to have a big impact on this championship. And I questioned whether or not he'd done enough in that Mercedes car to help Lewis Hamilton this season. Here is another opportunity for him to massively, massively help Lewis Hamilton. If he can keep Max Verstappen behind and just cause Max Verstappen a little bit of a headache going through the Grand Prix, obviously the two Mercedes can then use the fact that they've got both of them. They can go different strategies. They can maybe go different tyre options. We don't know whether the mediums or the hards are maybe going to be the best tyre over the course of the race today. So Valtteri Bottas being there is massive for the Constructors and the Drivers' World Championship. Charles Leclerc, as I said, 4th place start. Oh, hello, Sally. How you doing? Which reminds me of an IndyCar street track. Yeah, it's super high pace, isn't it? And Mallory's here as well. Hello, guys. What are you talking about? Just talking about qualifying. Just talking about the grid, getting ready for today's race. Where was I up to? Charles Leclerc is in 4th place. Another great drive from him in the Ferrari car. I said that he's had a little bit of an under-the-radar season for me, whether or not I just haven't been paying enough attention to Charles Leclerc, but he has been amazing over the last sort of 5 or 6 races, really, and throughout the entire season. Consistently there, isn't he? Consistently doing the business in that Ferrari, and does it again in qualifying, possibly on the echelons of getting a podium today. Would be his 2nd podium of the season if he could make it happen. And I think he's definitely deserving of all the podiums he's received so far. Possibly, deserves a few more, and today could be the day. Sergio Perez, a little bit off the pace compared to the Mercedes and obviously his teammate in the other Red Bull, but not too bad. Sergio Perez is not a qualifying driver. Undeserved. Sorry, Will. Not undeserved, but you know what I mean. What's the word? What's the word? Not undeserved then, because he did exceptionally well to put it there. But if Max Verstappen would have got around that final corner, he wouldn't have been on pole position. Maybe lucky. I don't know if there's a good. I'm not a Max fan. But yeah, I don't know if that's the word to use. Any news of Max changed any penalty-related parts? No. So they have not changed any parts in that Red Bull. He will be starting in 3rd place. They've only changed parts that obviously needed to be fixed. So they haven't broken any of the regulations in terms of exchanging out different units, and therefore he will still be starting 3rd. As bad as I feel for Max, I don't think this is a better, since it would still be the championship battle, more interesting. Yeah, that's very true. It does keep it very, very interesting indeed. What's the word? I feel like I need a word that's not undeserved to put Willie at rest. But I'm not sure what it is. Here we go then. Yeah, Sergio Perez, a little bit little bit behind the rest of the pack. But obviously, Charles Leclerc has been wonderful, and I feel like Sergio Perez might do something special today. He's just the kind of driver that, especially when it's mixed tyre conditions, we're going to be waiting to see who can do what on various different tyres. I just feel like we might see Sergio Perez go like super long on a set of tyres again. Just show his quality, show his ability to just keep those tyres in the absolute perfect patch, and maybe surprise some people with his stops. And he's done it over the last couple of races, but hasn't qualified overly highly in those either. So maybe this is the one. Maybe a Sergio Perez win after like a crazy strategy choice. Pierre Gasly, of course, finds himself on the third row of the grid. Might as well just put him in there every single week. He's always, always the man. I actually thought Yuki Tsunoda might get one up on him this time out in Saudi Arabia. It was looking like Yuki Tsunoda might just out-qualify his teammate for the first time in the season. But no, Pierre Gasly comes out, does the business, and we're starting on the third row of the grid with the other Red Bull car, as Martin Brundle is just racing after various Formula One drivers trying to get any sort of interview whatsoever. Lando Norris starts on the fourth row of the grid. A bit of a revitalization from Lando Norris. It's been a little while since he's been able to get really up and amongst the points and fighting with those, the AlphaTauri of Gasly, Charles Leclerc. We'll have to wait and see whether he can put himself in that position today. But a good qualifying from Norris after what has sort of been a season that's kind of dwindling out for him towards the end. Yuki Tsunoda, the Japanese driver, starts in 8th place in Q3 again. It's done really, really well. Obviously, Mexico was the last time he was able to jump into Q3 and looked really, really good in Mexico up until the point where he got in the way of the Red Bull cars. So maybe this weekend is the weekend he can show that quality again. Obviously, has that seat at AlphaTauri in 2022. I think we'll see a lot more of Yuki Tsunoda in 2022. It's been a bit of an underwhelming first season for him in Formula One, but maybe, we could see a little spark from Yuki Tsunoda here today. Let's chat back in the... Marco said Red Bull will appeal against no penalty for Lewis on the double yellow. If he won today, get the penalty later. I don't think... it's not going to change, right? The stewards made that decision. They didn't give the penalty. Are the same stewards going to change their mind? Probably not, to be honest with you. Just not going to happen. Where are we? PR, the deadline for the appeals passed. Oh, yeah, that's also true. So if they do go to an appeal, it'll have to be later on in the season. They'll have to go through the rigmarole of that. I don't think they'll bother. I think they'll just take the fact that they are going to be starting in third place and they'll have to give it their all. Perez isn't the fastest, but incredibly reliable as a team driver. Oh, yeah, most definitely. He's an incredible racer, I think, is the thing when it comes to Sergio Perez. He's not a qualifier. He's never really had that qualifying pace in his entire career. You could argue, really, he's never been a super fast qualifier, but he's always been an exceptional racer, and that's what's kept him in Formula One for so long. He is just synonymous with this era of Formula One. He's been there, done it, and been in so many different teams along the way as well. So Perez is definitely, deserves his space in Formula One. How much longer until lights out? 16 minutes, as we're currently seeing the drivers take a knee at the front of the grid, and lots of people still working on the cars on the grid as well. 15 minutes or so for them to make sure that everything is set up. Wasn't I on 1K subs a few months ago? I mean, yeah, this channel only started in March. We started at Imola, second race of the season. 20 races later, look at us. We're on, 5,140. So that is how well we have been doing over the season. I can only thank you guys so, so much. Going to call it Max and Lewis have contact at turn 1. You think he's going to get past Bottas and be going towards Lewis Hamilton down into turn 1? That'll be interesting. Do you think Max and Lewis will come together? I don't know, I think Bottas is going to be a real thorn in Max Verstappen's side today. I think it could be... Can I pop up the constructors? Of course I can. Yeah, while I'm just having a little bit of a look at the chat between talking about qualifying. We'll get back to that in a moment. Where are we up to? We're up to Yuki Tsunoda. We'll talk about the rest in a moment. I think Max and Bottas will have contacts in turn 1. Yeah, I think, Alex, you're right. I think Bottas is going to be the more likely driver to be a little bit of an annoyance for Max Verstappen going down into turn one. I could see although Lewis Hamilton has not started well quite often this season. We've seen quite a few races where Lewis Hamilton has dropped behind a few of the drivers that have started, behind him at the start of Grand Prix. So maybe this would be another one. Other question, what Sky Sports broadcast besides the race? Sky Sports do like lots of like English coverage for stuff. So like they do cricket, they do football, they do like rugby. Sky Sports are pretty big. Bottas will strategically take out Verstappen. I mean, I don't think Mercedes would be that cross with Max Verstappen. Obviously, they do lead the Constructors' Championship by 5 points. I don't think Sergio Perez is going to be getting anywhere near the front three this afternoon unless he can do something bonkers on some tyres somewhere with like a crazy stint on some hards or something. So I don't think Valtteri Bottas would be like too told off by Mercedes if he did just nudge the Red Bull of Max Verstappen. Not that I'm saying he would do that, of course. He's a professional, of course. We don't want to, start pointing fingers and blaming teams for things. We don't want to go down the route of, Fernando Alonso's championship with Renault. We don't want to see that later on in the season. But what we might see is just a tiny little touch between Max and Bottas. A little bit like Hungary, yeah, PR, as you're saying. I'm sure that they weren't too cross about that over the course of the season. If Max Verstappen had an extra 15 points now, they probably wouldn't be too happy about it. Where were we up to? We're up to Yuki Tsunoda. Ocon and Giovinazzi start on the fifth row of the grid. A bit of a surprise package there for me. Wasn't expecting those two to get into Q3, if I'm honest with you. They wouldn't have been in my predictions, but they both did really, really well. And actually, Giovinazzi, even though he looked really, really slow in that Formula E practice he did just a week ago, just seems to have bounced back in that Alfa Romeo. Is obviously taken to the fact that he's only got 2 more races left and is just going to throw his heart and soul at this Formula One drive for those last 2 races, the Italian, and hopefully we'll see him in Formula One at some point in the future, but you never know. He's headed over to Formula E, and we'll have to see how that goes for him over there. Daniel Ricciardo starts in 11th place, close to the points, but needs to make up a position somewhere if he's also going to pick up points for McLaren in this battle. Obviously, Charles Leclerc looking there in 4th, Norris 7th, Daniel Ricciardo 11th. So is a possibility that McLaren could make up a little bit of ground on Ferrari in the Constructors' Championship, but, nearly 40 points is going to be very, very tough to grab over the course of these last 2 races. Kimi Räikkönen starts in 12th place alongside Fernando Alonso. Obviously, those two know each other really, really well. Have been in Formula One for what seems like forever between the two of them and have so much experience. We'll have to wait and see how those two deal with each other over the first couple of laps or so. Alonso a little bit slower than maybe we expected in qualifying yesterday. Couldn't quite find the balance in that Alpine car, and maybe they've been able to make some changes over the course of the evening to give Alonso that little boost up to back. Maybe he could get another podium. Obviously picked up his first podium since 2014, last time out in Qatar. Anything could happen in this season, and even starting from 13th place, Fernando Alonso is the kind of guy you could see popping up with a podium. George Russell starts in 14th, of course, Mr. Saturday himself, lived up to that name basically, and put in a good qualifying performance, managed to get through into Q2, but was sort of the slowest of the rest in Q2 and dropped down into 14th place. Starting beside him, though, is Carlos Sainz. Or behind him, sorry, is Carlos Sainz. Because Carlos Sainz just had a Q2 to forget, really. Had 3 opportunities to set a lap time. First one made a tiny little bit of a mistake. So decided to just back off a little bit. Second one made an even bigger mistake and actually caught his rear wing on one of the walls. So they had to replace the rear wing. And then the third time around did exactly the same thing. Didn't catch his rear wing on that one, but did spin out the car for a second time and lost his opportunity at, getting into that top 10 So we'll be starting in 15th place. It'll be interesting to see what he can do from there, because the Ferraris looked pretty quick over the weekend, if a little bit unstable at times. And Carlos Sainz will not be happy starting 15th. So in a track where it's going to be tricky to overtake, can he do something a little bit special? Can he go for a different strategy in comparison to everyone else and maybe just pop up with something special in that Ferrari car? Might be difficult to overtake. Let's see. I agree, Alex. I do. I think it's going to be really tough to overtake, and I think that doesn't bode well for the likes of Carlos Sainz. Starting just behind him, the other Williams of Nicholas Latifi couldn't out-qualify Russell for the second time this season, but he's got one more opportunity, has Latifi, to out-qualify Russell before he moves over to Mercedes. So Latifi starts in 16th place, and then a little bit of a shock for me anyway. Aston Martin really slow yesterday. Sebastian Vettel's stunned by the fact that his time was only good enough for 17th. Actually came across the line, was told that it was 17th, and couldn't believe it. So obviously some really poor decisions or poor strategic maneuvers at the Aston Martin garage, and the car just did not look comfortable at all for those guys yesterday in qualifying. Vettel and Stroll actually start next to one another. We've seen those two come together a few times already this season, and on a very narrow track where both of them are really trying to get up towards that 10th place position and pick up points for the end of this season in a very slow Aston Martin car, could get a little bit tasty between the two. And talking about tasty between two teammates, Mick Schumacher and Mazepin start on 19th and 20th. They haven't yet come together this season. They've just edged ever closer still, getting closer and closer to that contact between the two of them. Will this weekend be the weekend that we see Gunther absolutely lose it with his two cars coming together? Here we go. Oh, James getting his predictions in early. Let's get predictions in then. How many safety cars, how many red flags, how many incidents do you think we're going to see over this race? James goes for 3 safety cars and a red flag. Wow. I don't know if we'll see that many safety cars, just because I think as soon as something happens, they're more likely to red flag. It's very narrow around here. There's not really many runoff areas or many spaces for the cars to sort of fill where they won't be in the way. So I think if there is a crash of any kind, we're going to see a red flag fairly swiftly after the crash. It wasn't unlucky, it was just him cracking under pressure. Oh, Blaze coming in with the dig at Max Verstappen. Got to remember, Max Verstappen is still leading the World Drivers' Championship by 8 points at this point in the season, and is still, looking like he could win his first ever World Drivers' Championship if Lewis Hamilton can't make up that difference. But obviously today starts in first. Max Verstappen starts in third. Valtteri Bottas is third currently in the Drivers' Championship. 5 safety cars, says Ben. I mean, that would be one hell of a race, but I'm not so sure. Abandoned race. I don't think we'll see an abandoned race. I think we'll see 2 red flags. I'm going to go for 2 red flags. 2 red flags and a virtual safety car. There you go. I don't know. We could see chaos, right? But then we said this at Monaco, and Monaco was fairly, okay. Oh, Prost and Senna. Hill and Schumacher. They're looking at all these incidents. Oh my god, they just showed the Hill Schumacher incident where they obviously crashed into one another. Michael Schumacher possibly causing that incident between those two. But there's obviously a big rivalry here between Max Verstappen and Lewis Hamilton. Sergio Perez currently 4th place in the Drivers' Championship. It's an opportunity for him to maybe catch up to Bottas a little bit today. If Bottas is used as a bit of a chess piece with Verstappen, maybe Sergio Perez can, make up some positions, make up some points with that Mercedes car. Lando Norris is the one, though, that we've got our eyes on. He's under pressure from Charles Leclerc for 5th place. Best of the middle runners in the McLaren car, the Ferrari just behind him. But Carlos Sainz also pretty close to Lando Norris too. Starting from 15th today, though, you'd be unlikely to make up points on Lando Norris. Then Daniel Ricciardo in a bit of no man's land in 8th place. Still needs to pick up points for McLaren in the Constructors' Championship if possible. But again, it's going to be very, very tough for the McLaren to get anywhere near Ferrari now, isn't it? So I think it might be all over for them. Pierre Gasly also in a bit of a no man's land, but he will maybe want to pick up some points today. If he can pick up, how many points is he behind? He's 13 points behind Daniel Ricciardo. If he can pick up, maybe 10 points today, Pierre Gasly, we're looking at him really getting very, very close to Daniel Ricciardo in this championship, and therefore looking maybe a little bit tasty towards the end of the season between those two, as to whether Pierre Gasly can take 8th place from the race winner, Daniel Ricciardo, by the way, which is absolutely mad that Pierre Gasly is anywhere near him after that 25-point boost to Ricciardo. Alonso and Ocon in 10th and 11th. Vettel, Stroll 12th and 13th. Tsunoda down in 14th, 15th. Russell 16th for Raikkonen. 17th Latifi. Giovinazzi in 18th with just 1 point. Maybe could get another point today because he is starting in the top 10. And Mick Schumacher and Mazepin round out our 20. But we are just a couple of minutes away now from our inaugural race at Jeddah, the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix. 27 corners, most of them pretty much flat out. And we're going to see some wonderful stuff this evening. The drama of 2021 continues. And it's going to be very exciting indeed. 8 DNFs we've got from 2K20. That would be stunning if we saw 8 DNFs. I don't know how many incidents we'd have with 8 DNFs. Going to watch the race on my phone. Going to turn off the stream. No worries, Theo. See you in a bit. 2 DNFs will happen. I love that we've got anywhere between 2 DNFs and 12 DNFs as our guesses for this evening's race. I love it, though. I love it. Obviously, the medium compound of tyres, so the C4, C3, and C2 available to them. I'm not sure many people will opt for the softs at any point in this race, to be honest with you. I could see this being a medium to hard tyre race. Obviously, the track was only laid 5 or 6 days ago, so it's very, very fresh, very, very green for the drivers. Lots of rubber been put down over the course of this week, though, from the Formula 1 and Formula 2 races so far. There were 4 at F2, that is very true. There were 4 at F2. I don't know, though, I just feel like there'd be less in a Formula 1 race, but I've been proved very wrong before about these kind of things. Hope Alonso can pull out another great finish. It's going to be tough from 13th place, isn't it? I don't think we're going to see too much overtaking. I think it's going to be very much a chess battle between these guys. Some strategy going on, whether or not they go on to mediums or hards, whether they try and do maybe a 2-stopper, 3-stopper. Hey, is this only commentary? Yes, Ibrahim. Calm, Ibrahim. But yes, it is. Wow, Sergio Perez. Yeah, it would have been a year since he won his first Grand Prix. Obviously won his second Grand Prix in the Red Bull this year as well. Maybe he picks up a third here this evening for the Red Bull team. We'll have to wait and see. Turn 1, red flag. I hope not. I hope we get a few laps of racing before we have to stop. Don't want us to have another Spa situation where we just do 4 laps and then call it because everybody's just driven into a wall. Anything could happen though. We've got lots of options. There could be safety cars, virtual safety cars, red flags. I feel like there's going to be some sort of interruption in the race. There's going to be some sort of stop in the race at some point. It's just whether or not it is the full red flag or just a little virtual safety car, and then we're back underway. But the walls are very tight around here. It's a very compact circuit. We've seen over the weekend so far that traffic is a problem. The blue flags are going to be a problem too. So I think there are any good overtaking opportunities only really down into turn 1, right? Using all 3 of those DRS zones to get as close as possible to the cars in front of you. And then maybe having to go down into turn 1. Feel like the rest of the corners are just a little bit too quick. You don't really have the braking zone opportunity. that you do at other tracks. Also, I feel like it has got a very, because it's a street circuit, obviously, it's got a bit of a Monaco-y style feeling, a little bit of a Baku maybe style feeling to it with the walls so close to the track. And we haven't seen too many overtakes at those this season either. In fact, I don't think we saw an overtake at all at Monaco. So, definitely. Wow, is that some drones in the sky that are doing a countdown? That's cool. That's very cool indeed. How do these countries just have money to burn? You know, it'd be good. Let's get 4,000 drones to make a clock in the sky. For what reason? No reason whatsoever. Just because we can. Lewis starting on 18 old laps tyres from free practice. There's quite a few drivers on old tyres though, because if we remember rightly, like lots of people had to do a couple of laps to get them even into the window of doing a fast lap in Q2 yesterday. The mediums took a real little time to take on some temperature, which is surprising because it looks, even though it's like in the middle of the night, it is looking very warm still. There we go. There's the different tyre strategies. Are you going to go mediums to hards, or possibly 2 stops on the mediums and a hard compound tyre? There are options. We could see 2 stops. We could see 1 stops as well. So I think there's a lot of strategic battles that are going to be happening over the course of the Grand Prix. We're up to 25 likes on the stream. Thank you guys so much. If you haven't left a like, please feel free to do so. It does help me out massively and helps grow the channel a huge amount too. We've just hit over 5,000 subscribers on the channel, which is mesmeric considering we only started this season. But it's been wonderful having these races with you, and the penultimate race of the season, I'm hoping, is going to still be an absolute barnstormer. We're looking at Max Verstappen trying to get some temperature into his tyres for the start of this Grand Prix. In front of him, though, both Mercedes cars. He's going to be frustrated with himself after that incident in the final corner yesterday. But can he make it happen today? Can he do the business from 3rd place? He's going to be looking down into turn 1 at Valtteri Bottas and trying to do as much as he possibly can. Charles Leclerc starting just behind Max Verstappen, now coming around turn 27. Lots of corners around here, but many of them are literally, well, you don't even have to lift, to be honest with you. They are just full throttle corners, and especially towards the DRS zones in sectors 2 and 3. Here we go then. Valtteri Bottas taking his position on the grid beside his teammate Lewis Hamilton. Max Verstappen starting just behind them. Charles Leclerc will start in 4th place next to him. Sergio Perez. Here we go. Has the race started? Almost. We are heading to the grid, and we're just waiting for the cars to take their position. Sergio Perez comes to a stop in his grid box, with Lando Norris just slotting in behind him. I'm tense. I'm genuinely tense. I feel like anything could happen at this race today. And I feel like it's going to be absolute bedlam from the beginning. Here we go then. I'm tense. Lando will be the counter. Yeah, he's starting on softs, isn't he? So might be something that Lando can do. Maybe if there's a safety car as well, he can do something. Here we go then. 5 lights. And they're out. And away we go. Let's go then. Oh, down towards turn 1. Lewis Hamilton does keep the lead. Valtteri Bottas comes around in 2nd place. It looks like Sergio Perez has been able to make up a position on Charles Leclerc, but then Charles Leclerc comes back at him towards turn 2 and 3 and keeps his position. Sergio Perez follows very closely behind Lando Norris, has a look at the Red Bull car. Oh, Perez was so very close to getting past Charles Leclerc there, but didn't quite make it stick. But it looks like Hamilton has got away and is in 1st place. Valtteri Bottas 2nd and Max Verstappen still in 3rd place. Charles Leclerc 4th, Sergio Perez 5th. Lando Norris 6th, and the Alpine of Ocon making up places, and so is Fernando Alonso. The Alpine obviously set up for the race rather than qualifying because they've come out of the blocks phenomenally well. The Ocon is now behind Lando Norris and Yuki Tsunoda and Fernando Alonso going wheel to wheel, and Fernando Alonso does it and sticks into 11th place. A real bad start from Yuki Tsunoda, all the way down in 12th now. So Hamilton, Bottas, Verstappen, Leclerc, Perez, Norris, Ocon, Gasly, Ricciardo, and Giovinazzi rounding out our top 10. Alonso already up into 11th place. Let me just pop this because that is just nonsense now. Alonso up into 11th. Yuki Tsunoda down into 12th. Kimi Räikkönen 13th. Carlos Sainz has only been able to make up one position into 14th. And as I say that, he goes for a move on Kimi Räikkönen and makes it stick. Does Carlos Sainz, moves up into 13th place. Although Kimi Räikkönen down into turn 1. Looks like he's going to have another go back at the Ferrari. Is he going to be able to hold on? Daniel Ricciardo and Gasly going wheel to wheel down into turn 1. Oh, and Kimi Räikkönen goes very deep on the brakes there, as maybe opened the door for Sebastian Vettel behind him. Hasn't quite. Sebastian Vettel's going to be looking at the back of that Alfa Romeo for a little while to still go through this race. Nicholas Latifi's dropped 3 places down into 19th. Don't know what's happened there. Possibly a little bit of issue or contact for him. So let's have a little look at this then. Lando Norris has made up a position as Pierre Gasly has dropped down. Ocon as well up behind Lando Norris. And then it's Gasly. So Gasly's dropped a couple of places already. It does seem like Gasly never really starts overly well in that car. Daniel Ricciardo is in 9th place. Alonso up into the points right now in 10th place. Wow. Okay, Giovinazzi, unfortunate for him. A really good qualifying from him yesterday, but has dropped down into 11th place now outside of the points. Yuki Tsunoda in 12th place. Carlos Sainz just behind Yuki Tsunoda. And then we've got Kimi Räikkönen as well. Ooh. Nope, I've broken it. Oh well, I've broken that. Lewis Hamilton, though, sets the fastest lap of the Grand Prix. Valtteri Bottas, 1.2 seconds now behind his teammate. Looking back at this race start then, what happens to Charles Leclerc and Sergio Perez? Sergio Perez does not look like he gets a good run off, but then just dives up the outside, locks up massively though, and that's where Charles Leclerc is able to make up the ground again. Sergio Perez really does dive up the inside of that Ferrari, going hell for leather. So what happens to Lando Norris? Actually gets a good start too. Goes, ooh. It's actually wheels touching. Is that the Alpine of Ocon? Oh, Ocon touches the wall, touches Tsunoda. Oh, my goodness me. And what happened to Lance Stroll here with Sebastian Vettel, the two teammates? Sebastian Vettel goes up the inside. And then also as well, so Stroll, oh, and comes into contact with Russell. So Stroll and Russell actually under investigation now. So Lewis Hamilton, again, fastest lap, 4th lap of this Grand Prix. Mercedes look good. Now 1.5 seconds to Bottas in 2nd place. Not too much shuffling going along. As I say that, Carlos Sainz makes a great move on Yuki Tsunoda and makes up a place on him. Lance Stroll also makes up a place on George Russell, although both of those guys are under investigation for a little bit of contact between the two of them. Jonathan Rodriguez, Sports 24 US. Good, thank you. No investigation necessary for the incident between Stroll and George Russell then. So nothing to look at. Carlos Sainz, though, were on board. Oh, they're just showing a replay of this move on Yuki Tsunoda. It's good. It's down into turn 1, goes around the outside, goes very deep into turn 1, but then sort of flicks it back towards turn 2. Obviously gets the DRS to help as well. Very decent stuff from Carlos Sainz. Gives the good job on the radio as well from the Ferrari team. And he's pushing on towards those points positions now in that Ferrari car. Here we go then. So Hamilton, Bottas, Verstappen, Leclerc, Perez, Norris, Ocon, Gasly, Ricciardo, Alonso, Gio, then Carlos Sainz now. And Yuki Tsunoda. Raikkonen. From Vettel and Stroll then. So let me pop up the track board for you 1 second. Russell. And then Mick Schumacher. Ahead of one of the Williamses. It is only Latifi, but ahead of a Williams nonetheless. Pop up this race board and... Is that in? There we go. Let's see then. Is Hamilton going to be able to pull away from this sort of little pack behind him? Charles Leclerc now actually over 4 seconds behind Max Verstappen. So it is looking like these front 3 are going to run away with it from this position. But another fastest lap. Is DRS enabled? Yes, indeed it is. Comes online on the 3rd lap of the Grand Prix. So about a few laps of DRS now. We've seen Carlos Sainz actually put that to good use behind Yuki Tsunoda, but nobody's actually really following that closely behind anybody else. As I say, Antonio Giovinazzi actually having a little look at the Ferrari Fernando Alonso. Fernando Alonso goes super deep in turn 1 and turn 2. He uses all the runoff area. And well, I'll have a little look at that, I'd imagine, the stewards, because Fernando Alonso doesn't really follow the track in any way whatsoever through turn 1 and turn 2 to try and keep himself ahead of Giovinazzi, but that is how we are. Valtteri Bottas. I could do with a bit more gap in front, says Valtteri Bottas. So obviously doesn't want the dirty air of the Mercedes in front of him. So Valtteri Bottas asking Lewis Hamilton if he can hurry up a little bit and pull out a little bit more of a gap in front. He's already 1.6 seconds ahead of the Mercedes in number 2 with Valtteri Bottas. And we're already 6 laps into this Grand Prix. It seems like that has just gone in the blink of an eye. We're going to see possibly some strategies and some tyre changes. Obviously, Lando Norris starting on the softer compound. I don't know how long they will be able to last. Fernando Alonso really does lock up there in that fight for 10th place with Giovinazzi. Obviously, on the medium compound tyre, Fernando Alonso didn't make it into the top 10. So starts on some fresh pair of rubber. And Lando Norris having another little look at Ocon, is that? No, it's not. It's Daniel Ricciardo having a look at Gasly. I just saw a McLaren going through the corners a little bit weavy. Thought that might be Lando Norris, but no, it's Daniel Ricciardo in the second. And Alonso does lose the place to Giovinazzi. So Giovinazzi has been able to make up that place on Fernando Alonso there. And now Alonso under lots of pressure from Carlos Sainz too. So a really good start from Alonso. And now maybe just sort of coming home for him and dropping back a little bit from where he was before. Let's have a look then. Antonio Giovinazzi down into turn 1. Takes the outside line. Yeah, does really well actually, Antonio. Ooh! And Needed a little bit of very close to coming into contact between them there. If Hamilton wins, sorry, and Max is second, who's leading the championship? No, Max will be leading the championship by 1 point. Unless Hamilton also gets fastest lap. That could also be the case. But Hamilton now 1.48 seconds ahead of his teammate in second place. Here comes the McLaren then. Daniel Ricciardo having a little look at Pierre Gasly and actually makes that look very simple indeed. Does Daniel Ricciardo in the McLaren. That is good for us McLaren boys. And Carlos Sainz also makes a move on Fernando Alonso. So both Spaniards there changing positions with one another. And Carlos Sainz has done really well to make up some places. I was not expecting this amount of overtaking here, to be honest with you. I was expecting a little bit of a procession, but Daniel Ricciardo making up 3 places, Carlos Sainz making up 4, showing us how to do it. Let's have a little look then. It is down into turn 1 where there is the overtaking opportunity. Obviously, you've got all 3 DRS zones leading up to that start-finish straight, and Carlos Sainz just really comfortably up the inside of Fernando Alonso, actually, and does really well. Fernando Alonso does realise that he's probably not racing Carlos Sainz today, and probably better off just keeping those tyres a little bit fresher rather than trying to battle with the Ferrari. Now, Yuki Tsunoda is the next car behind Fernando Alonso. Fernando Alonso had such a good start to this Grand Prix, and now it's sort of fading away, unfortunately, for him, because Yuki Tsunoda, looking on the hunt behind that Alpine, is now in DRS behind the Alpine as well. Lewis Hamilton sets a fastest lap of the race and goes 2 seconds clear of Valtteri Bottas, who himself is 2 seconds clear of Max Verstappen. So Lewis Hamilton starting to eke out a bit more of a lead over these last couple of laps. But the battle, Yuki Tsunoda now looking at the Spanish driver, Fernando Alonso. Can he make it happen? Not this time around. It's possibly going to be another couple of laps of Yuki Tsunoda bearing down on the rear wing of the Alpine car. Continuing to push. Last lap, Yuki Tsunoda was 1.4 seconds faster than the Alpine of Fernando Alonso. That Alpine really is struggling here today, isn't it? Just not having any of it on this Saudi Arabian track in Jeddah. Carlos Sainz having a little look at Antonio Giovinazzi, also within DRS of the Alfa Romeo car. Can Carlos Sainz get himself up into the points? If you're Carlos Sainz, you've probably got your eyes on Daniel Ricciardo, really, as the driver you're aiming to get in front of today. But will Carlos Sainz be able to do that over the course of the Grand Prix? Let's wait and see. Lap 9 of the first ever Jeddah Grand Prix. And Carlos Sainz gaining and gaining on Giovinazzi. Will he have another go down into turn 1 as Lewis Hamilton starts the 10th lap of this Grand Prix by putting in another fastest lap, 2.7 seconds. Now the gap to Valtteri Bottas. Carlos Sainz gaining and gaining on Antonio Giovinazzi. Coming around the final corner then, 27 corners. Oh! And Mick Schumacher is in the wall. Mick Schumacher is in the wall, 21-22. He's dropped into the wall there, Mick Schumacher, and he's going to be out of this race. Safety car is out. The safety car is out in this Grand Prix. Is he okay? He's on the radio. Says he's okay, which is good to hear on the radio from Mick Schumacher there. But we do have our first ever safety car. Here we go then. Who's going to pit? It's a bit early, isn't it? It's just a tad early. Stroll comes in for tyres. Russell comes in for tyres. It's just a tad early for those guys on the medium compound, I would say, to come in. But, I mean, you've got an opportunity here at a bit of a free pass pit stop. Because, obviously, you won't lose too much and you can gain back that time behind the safety car. But you will be losing some positions. So Stroll and Russell have been the two to go for it under the safety car. And Lewis Hamilton's boxing. Lewis Hamilton is boxing for tyres. Okay. I thought it might be a little bit early for the guys on the mediums, but I suppose under the safety car conditions, got a real opportunity. And Valtteri Bottas slowing down heavily to try and hold up Max Verstappen. Here we go then. Hamilton does come into the pits. Safety car 1 and counting. Yes, Sarah, you're probably right. Could be a few more to come. But Hamilton has then stopped. Is Max Verstappen going to... No. Max Verstappen does not stop as we start lap 11 of this Grand Prix. Where's Lewis Hamilton going to come in? Sergio Perez does come in, though, for Red Bull. Lando Norris comes in for tyres. And onto hards as well. Lando Norris obviously on the softs. That does make sense. Wow. So Verstappen is now in the lead of this Grand Prix, but has yet to have pitted. Hamilton does come out in seconds, to be fair, because Bottas did decide to pit 2 behind his teammate. Ocon and Ricciardo jump up some places as Charles Leclerc and Perez also decide to pit. Norris decided to pit too. So, where is Ricciardo? Charles Leclerc has come out behind Daniel Ricciardo. Pierre Gasly, I don't think, decided to stop either and has come out. Sergio Perez just behind the AlphaTauri. Oh, Max Verstappen. And Christian Horner. Very cross indeed. After Valtteri Bottas driving really, really slow behind the safety car. To try and allow Mercedes that opportunity to double stack their cars. So Mercedes knew what they were doing there. And Valtteri Bottas knew what he was doing too. Valtteri Bottas decides to stay very, very slow behind the safety car. Oh, and Mick Schumacher, yeah, just loses the rear end in 22-23. Ouch. Yeah, it's very Charles Leclerc, actually. They've just said on the commentary, and I agree, very, very much Charles Leclerc. 1 of 3 and 0 of 1. James is getting his bets in. Mick Schumacher does make his way out of the car by himself, though, which is nice to see. And obviously, seeing that he's getting out of the car under his own volition and can just continue on is fair. Max Verstappen asking if the safety car can go a bit quicker as it's holding him up a little bit at this moment in time. Poor Bert Mylander trying his absolute best in that Aston Martin. Norris, Alonso, Mazepin up in there. Oh, what's happened to Carlos Sainz? Oh, he was making a move. Was that before? Oh. Did he overtake after the safety car had been... Oh, that's a close one for Carlos Sainz. Let me see from his perspective. Now, did the safety car lights come on before or after he made that move? That's the interesting bit there, isn't it? Latifi, Stroll, and Russell. There we are. So this is what it currently looks like on the grid. A little bit of a mix-up, to be fair, under the safety car. A few drivers deciding to stop, a few drivers deciding not to. And we'll have to wait and see how that does with these tyres. Obviously, we're buying quite a bit of time behind this safety car and buying a few laps on those older tyres. Max Verstappen yet to have stopped. Lewis Hamilton, his title rival, did decide to pit, hence why he is now in second place. The other Mercedes in Bottas pitted as well. Red Bull did decide to pit one of their drivers in Sergio Perez, but decided to keep the other driver out. So we will have to wait and see. Can we get this safety car in and get underway again, please? Max Verstappen behind the safety car. The Mercedes of Lewis Hamilton starting to gain on him again. So a bit of a free stop for Lewis Hamilton. Obviously, he has gained a new set of tyres, but Max Verstappen has gained track position. So Red Bull obviously going for a very different strategy to the Mercedes car. Let's see what they can do. Lewis Hamilton on the fresh set of tyres, though. Fresh set of hards as well. We've seen that the hard compound tyre is actually quite quick around here. Max Verstappen is so close to the back of that Aston Martin safety car. Crazy close to that Aston Martin safety car, but Max Verstappen does need to get a wiggle on as soon as that safety car does enter the pit lane, because he needs to run away from both of the Mercedes behind him. And of course, Ocon now finds himself in 4th place. Daniel Ricciardo decided also not to pit and is in 5th place now. For me, Max should have pit. Josh, I think you might be right. Because he's going to have to pit at some point. Mercedes might be able to get away with just keeping on this tyre for the rest of the Grand Prix. You never know in these harder compound tyre conditions, especially with all these laps under the safety car, not taking too much out of the tyre. And a red flag then. Okay. Wow. Red flag. So that really messes up the tyres then for Mercedes. Oh my goodness me. Red flag. Max Verstappen's going to lead this Grand Prix, and under a red flag, you are allowed to change your tyres. So they need to make some repairs to the Tech Pro barrier, I guess, at turn 23. And they've red flagged it. So Max Verstappen is going to be able to change his tyres, and that has put a huge spanner in the works. Oh my goodness me. There you go. There's your red flags, ladies and gentlemen. 13 laps into this Grand Prix, and we have stopped. This is so controversial. So controversial. This is massive for the Drivers' Championship. If it was a red flag, Mercedes would not have come in and changed their tyres. And now, Max Verstappen is effectively going to get the freest of free pit stops. Wow. Oh my goodness me. Max is indeed the luckiest boy on the grid. Wow. Max is going to be able to change his tyres and start at the front of this race. That also means that the likes of Daniel Ricciardo, Charles Leclerc... Daniel Ricciardo's made up loads of positions. Ocon and Daniel Ricciardo, have also made up loads of positions and loads of time because of that red flag. Yeah, I know. After so many laps of safety car, 3 or 4 laps of safety car we had there. And now we have a red flag. And Red Bull are going to be able to change those tyres for some hards, I'd imagine. Wow. Wow. This is controversy. And Hamilton on the radio, not very happy at all. Now, people were saying, are we going to see a collision between Max Verstappen and Lewis Hamilton? I said no. Hamilton is absolutely livid. Hamilton is maybe the most angry I've seen him in a very long time. And when he's angry behind that Mercedes, he is going to be going absolutely 1000% at Max Verstappen in front of him. Oh. How many laps were done under the safety car? I think it was 4. I think the safety car came out on lap 10. And I think we did 4 laps behind the safety car. Lewis Hamilton now out of the car, saying that the tyre wall looks fine. Lewis Hamilton very upset by this decision. Very, very upset by this decision. Wow. Mercedes talking over the radio. Hamilton asking whether or not they knew that there was going to be a red flag, whether or not they could have stopped. Obviously, it was always a gamble, but pretty much everybody in the top 10 gambled. It was only Max Verstappen, really, that decided to stay out there. Daniel Ricciardo, I guess, and Ocon as well. But basically, everybody else pitted. Leclerc pitted. Norris pitted. Norris has lost out massively, by the way. Norris now behind Vettel. Let me pop up the race board for you. Norris has dropped from, running comfortably in the top 10 to miles outside of it. Yeah, it was lap 10. There you go. There's confirmation. Lap 10 that Mick Schumacher made the mistake and hit into the barriers. And it's Mick Schumacher that causes the red flag. Wow. That is going to be massive for this year's World Championship. Absolutely massive in this year's World Championship. Here we go. Should we start like a little what was it called? Should we start like a conspiracy theory? So Mick Schumacher did that on purpose because he wants to make sure that Lewis Hamilton doesn't get an 8th title. That's what I've heard. Lewis Hamilton does have reason to be livid. Yeah, Antonio, I agree with you massively. Like, if I was Lewis Hamilton, I would be just beyond gone at this point. I think he's done quite well to keep it together to this point, because I would be just absolutely just distraught at this decision if it was me. It does give me an opportunity to get rid of some of these bots that are in the chat, though. So, swings him roundabouts. Lando Norris, yeah, 14th place. Gutted. Lando's getting so much bad luck. Yeah, I know. Tell me about it. Tell me about it. I feel like I need some of you guys to be. I should get some moderators going, shouldn't I? Should we choose some moderators at some point? Haas master plan. Yeah, that's what I mean. Mick, that's what I've heard. That's what I've heard. I've heard Mick Schumacher did it on purpose. she start a rumor to just explode Formula One Twitter over the next couple of days. Yeah, I've heard Mick Schumacher did it on purpose because his dad told him to. Absolute nonsense. Oh. Let's have a look then. Max Verstappen sitting with good old Marco, having a little chat. Mick looking out for his father's record. Yeah, spicy. Is it all just to repair the barrier? Yeah, yeah. So it's all just to repair. So the car's gone. The Mick Schumacher's car was moved out of the way under the safety car. The barriers were seen to be damaged enough to need replacing, and that meant that the stewards had to, not the stewards, sorry, the marshals had to go out onto the track, and that's why they've brought in these guys. And they are trying to put the barriers back together again as quickly as possible. Obviously, the Red Bull guys just changing the tyres for free on Max Verstappen's car. Can Sainz and Vettel put on hards again? Oh, yeah, I guess so, because they technically have done some laps on the mediums. So, yes, they can. Because you got to remember, you just have to do, like, even if it's just one lap, you have to use 2 sets of tyres in a dry race. Of course, we've seen Ocon do a no-stop race this year. But in a race like this, you have to do two different stints, basically. You have to use 2 different types of tyres. But, I mean, if you just use the tyre for 1 lap, that is still a stint on that tyre. So, yeah, we could see some of those guys swap back over to the harder compound, especially 36 laps, though, does seem like quite a lot to do, even on the harder compound. So I think we will see another stop at some point. Race will resume at 9:15 local time. 9:15 local time. So we've got 5 or probably about 10 minutes or so until we get back underway. So we may have heavily influenced the championship. Massively influenced the championship. Silly question. Is there an amount of times you can swap tyres? Nope. You can pit however many... Well, I mean, there's a maximum amount of tyres that you can use for the weekend. But if you want to put an older set on and you want to switch around your tyres, you can do as many pit stops as you like. But obviously, you lose a lot of time every one you do. So, you know, this is what I mean by Lando Norris has lost out massively because he came in and pitted. You know, George Russell pitted as well. Lance Stroll pitted. Sergio Perez, a huge loss for him, down in 8th place now. As we're looking at the drivers putting their helmets back on now. So we're getting back towards another start. As we look at Lance Stroll. I do quite like Lance Stroll's helmet, actually. It's very basic, isn't it? You know, the Aston Martin wings, the green. But it's quite nice. JB did a 6-stopper in 2011. Yeah, was that Canada? Where he did a 6-stop race. So there's no like limit on how many stops you can do. There's a limit on how many tyres you can have in a weekend. But, I mean, you can use the same tyre twice. Like, you can use it in free practice and then in the race as well if you want. So, or you can use it twice in the same race. Just rewatching the start. What's the reason behind my McLaren love? I'm sure it must be the 2017 car. It was Jenson Button, actually. So the first season I ever watched was 2008, 2009, around there. Jenson Button, obviously same initials as me, also from the UK. Was a big Jenson Button fan, and obviously his step from Brawn to McLaren was what sort of pointed me in that direction. I do love Senna as well, yeah, but Senna not my era of Formula One, but yeah, I can appreciate obviously McLaren and Senna, all those. I sort of got into Formula One just after Lewis Hamilton won his title. Was it Kimi Räikkönen? Yeah, I saw Kimi Räikkönen win his title. I remember seeing that race. And I remember seeing Lewis Hamilton winning his title. And that was sort of when I was first sort of... Like, I wasn't into Formula One. I wasn't watching it consistently. but I, knew a little bit about it. And then 2009, that bronze season, was my first like proper season of Formula One. So I guess you could say I'm a bit of a glory hunter, to be fair, because Jenson Button won the championship, and I was like, I love Jenson Button, get behind him. But that was just sort of how it fell. And then he moved to McLaren, started watching McLaren a little bit, and then also I do really like Lando Norris, who they've got now too. So it's kind of how it happened for me. Here we go then. Max Verstappen is back in the car. And the wheel is on. So we're going to be getting going very soon indeed. With his brand new set of tyres on the Red Bull car. Yeah, the chrome livery. The Vodafone liveries, Josh, you're right. The Vodafone liveries were the ones. I do like the orange, though. The orange, not bad. Orange, not bad. Share your birthday with Senna. That's pretty cool. Right, let's get back underway then, guys. Let's get back underway. Mick Schumacher is going to be out of this race. Nicholas Latifi, the last of the drivers running. But Max Verstappen is going to start the race in the lead with a fresh set of tyres. Lewis Hamilton second, Valtteri Bottas in third. Ocon has done really well just to not pit, basically, and has managed to get himself up into fourth place. Daniel Ricciardo fifth. Charles Leclerc is going to be gutted to be all the way down in sixth place. Pierre Gasly seventh. Sergio Perez in eighth. Chester Williams, why is there a red flag? Mick Schumacher is out of this race now. Made a mistake in 22, 23, hit the barriers, and they had to replace all the barriers, so they had to red flag the race. Yeah, Sergio Perez, though, starting in 8th place. He'll be gutted. Obviously came in for tyres. So did Carlos Sainz in 9th. Giovinazzi up into the points again in 10th place. Yuki Tsunoda starts in 11th. Kimi Räikkönen, Vettel, Norris in 14th. Just seems disgustingly harsh on the Mercedes, on the McLaren, man. Alonso starts behind Norris. Mazepin in 16th place. Wow, probably the highest that he's been for a little while. George Russell, Stroll, Latifi, and then, as I said, Mick Schumacher out of this Grand Prix. Standing or rolling start? Ooh, don't know. Don't know if that's been confirmed. Giving me time to make a little gourmet lunch. Lovely. Love that, Mallory. Yeah, I should have done it. Should have gone and made a gourmet lunch. Here we go. Lewis Hamilton being told on the radio to pressure Max Verstappen. Here we go. Is anybody else really excited for this? I am. I'm so excited for this now. Lewis Hamilton is going to be so angry at this point in time. 2 minutes left to go. 2 minutes there in the Mercedes car, looking at the rear wing of that Red Bull, stewing, knowing he deserves to be in front of that Red Bull car from the start of this Grand Prix. I'm excited. I'm bouncing. I'm so excited. Oh my goodness me. This is where, like, we get restarted again, and then two drivers come into contact, and we just red flag all over again. We're just going to be in this continual cycle of doing one lap and then having a red flag. Oh, I got a new follower on Twitch. Oh, I should have plugged my stuff while we were having a break. Everybody, you've got a minute before the race restarts. Head into the description. Follow me on Twitch. Follow me on Instagram. Follow me on Twitter. Other things that I do. There's a Patreon down there if you want to support me. I'm starting to put together Patreon-only content in the next few weeks. And possibly also starting a football channel very, very soon too. So not only Formula One action, but a football channel possibly coming your way in the very near future too. Plus some more Twitch streams when the season ends. Because I won't be having any streams over the weekends watching Grand Prix with you guys. So instead, I figured we could play some games, have a bit of a chill, and still talk Formula One. There's still going to be stuff going on, obviously, in preparation for 2022, but a bit of a downtime for the teams and the drivers. But before we, worry about that, we've got 2 races left to go, and they look set to be absolutely monumental in this Drivers' Championship. Plot twist, Bottas takes both of them out. Yeah, Mercedes are going to be like, oh, they could have left Bottas out. They double stacked as well, didn't they? Maybe they should have let Bottas or left Bottas out because they knew Max Verstappen was not coming out. Wasn't coming in, so maybe they should have, made sure and left Valtteri Bottas out, and then Bottas would be leading this Grand Prix. Why don't I double stream on Twitch? I could do. I always just feel like I wouldn't be able to have both chats up, so there'd always be one that I'm like leaving behind almost, which seems a bit harsh. Here we go then. The cars are leaving the pit lane currently. What football team do I support? Norwich and Liverpool, which I know is controversial. You're allowed to have 2 teams? Yes, you are. No, I'm from Norwich, so I go to a lot of Norwich games. So, for instance, I went last week to the Wolves game. As we're getting ready to go then. So I went last week to the Wolves game. But I do follow Liverpool quite heavily. I was a Liverpool fan as a kid. And I've sort of got more and more into Norwich as I've got older because I've been able to go to those games more often. Rumour has Merck said Bottas play bowling. Do you reckon Bottas can do some sort of like line where he goes past Lewis Hamilton into the side of Max Verstappen and then just lets Hamilton sort of scooch through? Racing, no. Ping pong, yes. Love that. Here we go. Max Verstappen. Oh, it is going to be a standing start. Safety car will enter the pits and a standing start. Here we go then. We're back underway in Jeddah for the first ever Jeddah Grand Prix. Oh, Verstappen complaining again about getting heat into these tyres and the fact that the safety car is going so slowly. So slowly. Here we go. Toto Wolff. The stare of 1,000 yards into the screen in front of him. Hamilton, Verstappen, Bottas, the front 3, all on hard compound tyres. Daniel Ricciardo still on mediums, though. And has opted to go for a little bit of a different strategy. Max Verstappen on the radio again, complaining now about Lewis Hamilton leaving way too much space behind him. Surely he's happy that Max Verstappen and Lewis Hamilton are just leaving that little bit of space as they go towards the grid then. Lewis Hamilton slowing down considerably. Max Verstappen is not very happy. Max Verstappen agitated. Lewis Hamilton angry. Here we go. Ladies and gentlemen, this could be era defining in Formula One. Our final couple of races of this era before we enter 2022 and the new regulations, and what a season it has been. It culminates with these final 2 races, the penultimate here in Jeddah, the first time we've ever been here, and my goodness me. Has Max pitted yet? No, but he has been able to change his tyres under the red flag. So yes, technically. Yes and no. No, he hasn't pitted, but yes, he's got new tyres. So. Oh. Tingly. Here we go then. Come on. Nicholas Latifi at the back of the track then. Are we going to get 5 lights? Green flag. Here we go then. 1, 2, 3, 4. And here we go then. We are away for the second time in Jeddah. Lewis Hamilton gets a great start from Lewis Hamilton and straight up into first place for the McLaren car. Oh, Max Verstappen goes super deep though and goes super wide. Esteban Ocon now takes second place at the Grand Prix. Oh, and who's that? Sergio Perez is all over the place. There's going to be another red flag. It's going to be stopped again. Oh my goodness me. Lewis Hamilton and Max Verstappen do come to blows. They come together, but they're both still running. Ocon has been able to take second place. Daniel Ricciardo. Oh, and it's Mazepin in the wall. Sergio Perez in the... Oh, Sergio Perez has still got that car rolling. How on earth has he managed to do that? He's missing a front wing. Yeah, we're going to see another red flag, though, lads. We're going to see... Oh, and George Russell looks like he's out as well. Yes, indeed, George Russell is out. I told you. 2 red flags. Back to back to back. Here we go. Race suspended. Cars line up in the pit lane again. I think Max Verstappen might be on for a little bit of a slap on the wrist, ladies and gentlemen. That was bad. Oh, Mazepin. Apologetic, to be fair. Apologetic on the radio to the Haas team. But a red flag. 2 red flags, okay. A safety car and 2 red flags is what we've got already in 16 laps. Mazepin, Perez, and George Russell are all going to be out of this Grand Prix. Double DNF for Haas. Yeah, double DNF for Haas, unfortunately for them. Yeah, that is Sergio Perez out, though. That's big for the Constructors' Championship. Sergio Perez is out. Hamilton gets so much better of a start. And then Max Verstappen goes down the outside. He's off the track. He's off the track. Hamilton's have to be given that place back. But I don't know how, because Ocon also takes the place too. So how does that work? Max Verstappen, though, like, he overtakes Lewis Hamilton off the track. So he has to, surely has to give that place back in some way. But yeah, Hamilton gets a mesmeric start off the line. Really quick off the line from Lewis Hamilton. This track is like Squid Game. Oof. Yeah, Max Verstappen cuts across the curb there. Like, I'm not a Hamilton fan, but Max Verstappen has to give that place back. Has to give that plate back. But I don't know how that works either, because Ocon obviously made up the place too in second place. Sergio Perez is what we're going to have a little look at too. So is sort of making headway. Sees a little bit of smoke in front of him. Gets in between Charles Leclerc and Yuki Tsunoda. Is that? No, it's Pierre Gasly. Oh, and I think Charles Leclerc might catch the rear end of Sergio Perez there. Yep. I think Charles Leclerc might come into contact with the rear end of Sergio Perez there, causing him to spin. I don't know if there's much more Sergio Perez could have done. It's whether or not Leclerc is obviously too close to the wall. Yeah, Leclerc touches the wall as well, actually. Leclerc does touch the wall as well. Thank you, Turan. Appreciate that. But yeah, Leclerc's front left hits the wall. That sort of juts him over to the right. Ooh. And that was the Nikita Mazepin crash. So as Sergio Perez is obviously spinning around, George Russell has to get massively off the throttle and actually gets rear-ended by Nikita Mazepin. And that could have been a bad crash between George Russell and Mazepin. Luckily, both of them seemingly okay. Lewis Hamilton on the radio saying he had to avoid the collision. I agree with him. I think Max Verstappen knew what he was doing there. Because obviously, if both drivers go out, Max Verstappen keeps his lead in the Drivers' Championship. So I think Max Verstappen knew what he was doing there. Stream a little delayed. Yeah, YouTube has a little delay on it. A little bit of a delay. Not too much though. It's usually like a minute or two at max. I don't think I don't know how at fault Mazepin is there, to be honest with you. Like everything in front of him happens very, very quickly, and it's so tough being at the being right at the back. There is probably the worst place that you could be at a start like that because everything's happening in front of you at 1,000 miles an hour. You've got so much to look at in front of you as well. And Sergio Perez just looks across the night sky and is gutted that he is now out of this race. It was looking okay for Sergio Perez until the first red flag. Obviously missed out because he went into the pits, and then that has been very costly indeed. Ended up actually being at the back. Wow. You stream on Twitch? Yeah, sometimes. Not usually when there's a race on, obviously, because I'm doing this. But especially over the winter breaks, summer breaks, I try and do it on trip. Oh, yeah, that's Charles Leclerc's car then. So Charles Leclerc did make quite heavy contact with Sergio Perez. I don't know how Ocon managed to just blitz through everybody. Got ahead of Bottas, ahead of Hamilton. Did really well. But Esteban Ocon now up into second place. And again, we have a red flag, though. Another weight on our hands. What should we have a chat about this time? Bit of filler. From the cockpit cam with Perez-Leclerc collision. You can still see why. Ferrari's left-hand side. It's so tough, right? Charles Leclerc... I think Sergio Perez comes across. Charles Leclerc does come into contact with the wall, and it sort of flicks the front of the Ferrari across, so there's not too much he can do about it, if I'm brutally honest. I think it might go down as a racing incident. I think be a little bit harsh to give Leclerc a penalty, but I could see it happening. Gasly and Leclerc. Giovinazzi has found himself up into 8th place then. Carlos Sainz in 9th place. Vettel's up into the points. Wow. It's all changed. Vettel up into the points. Kimi Räikkönen just outside in 11th place. Yuki Tsunoda in 12th. Just behind Kimi. Alonso just behind Tsunoda. Let me just update this for you. So a lot of changes, believe it or not, with this one. Stroll, Latifi, and Norris is now the last remaining running driver. Oh, wait, what's happened? Verstappen, Ocon, Hamilton, Ricciardo, Bottas, Gasly, Leclerc, Giovinazzi. Oh, I've messed up. Carlos Sainz is in there. Bloody idiot. And then it's Vettel. And then Raikkonen. Tsunoda. Alonso. Stroll, Latifi, Norris. Ooh, okay. So Verstappen has been given the opportunity to start from second on the grid. But then Ocon would be leading this race. What? Unless Hamilton also gets the position back as well? So Red Bull have been given the choice to start from second. Oh, okay. So Hamilton would get the place back from Verstappen then, is what the FIA are offering. So Hamilton would start ahead of Verstappen and then Ocon would go into third place, I think is what the FIA are offering to Red Bull. They've got 10 minutes or so to have a little think. Obviously, the Red Bull team are going to have a discussion between them. Personally, I think that is pretty fair. Hamilton did have that position. Max Verstappen knew exactly what he was doing. I don't think he's pushed off the track there. I think Verstappen tries to go around the inside and knows what he's doing. This is so convoluted. Yeah, Matthew, you're right. It's so much going on. But I think Red Bull might have to take this. What's the other option? What's the other option that they're offering? That's what the FIA have offered to Red Bull. They've said you can start in second, Hamilton in first, and Ocon in third. But what if Red Bull say no? Oh my goodness me. Yeah, Michael Massey, I don't think has any idea what's going on. I don't have any idea what's going on. They're all just having little meetings behind the scenes on the radios by the looks of things. Mercedes asking what's happening. The FIA saying that they'll update them as soon as they know. Odds on a third red flag for Ball Toaster. I mean, how many cars are out now? We've got Russell, Perez, Mazepin, and Mick Schumacher all out of this Grand Prix. So 4 drivers out of the Grand Prix. Back behind Lewis, need another minute. Yeah. Oh. Wow. Okay. So they've decided to take it. They're gonna take it. Ocon will lead the Grand Prix. What on earth are we here? Ocon. Oh, sorry. I'll pop it up for you. Ocon, Hamilton, Verstappen is how we will line up for the front end of this Grand Prix. How on earth do they come to this decision? And Ocon could be on for his second win of 2021 in an Alpine. Suddenly, all is all over the place for this Grand Prix. Valtteri Bottas, of course, behind Daniel Ricciardo now, unfortunately for him. So won't get to have a go at Max Verstappen straight away. Just crazy. Absolutely crazy stuff. We're on 43 likes. If you haven't left a like, please leave a like. That'd be wonderful. As we're on our second red flag of the evening. Just watching, again, the Sergio Perez, Max Verstappen, George Russell incident. So Ocon, Hamilton, Verstappen is how we will start with our front 3. Ricciardo up onto the second row of the grid. Ocon's second win incoming. More than capable of doing so from this point. It's very tough to overtake here. We've seen a few overtakes, but not like an exceptional amount. You'd assume that Hamilton will be able to get in front of Ocon, probably Verstappen as well. But Daniel Ricciardo is a hell of a defensive driver in and amongst it in 4th place. Valtteri Bottas in 5th. Gasly 6th. Leclerc a bit out of position now. Giovinazzi a bit out of position. Carlos Sainz has dropped down again. Vettel in and amongst the points now. After starting in 17th place, now Vettel's suddenly picking up a point for Aston Martin. Wow. Charles Leclerc might have a bit of damage, actually. Whether they'll sort that out. And Charles Leclerc... I don't think Charles Leclerc's at fault for that, to be honest with you. That's my personal opinion, but I don't think Charles Leclerc's that And, Esteban Ocon does so well in that first corner, actually. Does really well to sort of read the situation in front of him, understands that Max Verstappen's going to go deep into the corner and goes super shallow and manages to make up the position on Hamilton. Very impressive from Esteban. And then the onboard from Nikita Mazepin. Yeah, it just happens so quickly in front of him. Poor Nikita. Got to remember he is still a rookie as well. Want to see some Daniel late breaking into T1. Could he be leading the Grand Prix? Imagine Daniel Ricciardo could overtake Lewis Hamilton and Max Verstappen here. So we're going to change some tyres again, reshuffle some different parts on these cars. As we look at Christian Horner then. Not going to be a happy bunny about Max Verstappen losing a place to Lewis Hamilton again in this Grand Prix. Lewis was quite a bit ahead of Max Verstappen, like over a car's length ahead by the time they get to turn one. Yeah, I think they haven't really got a leg to stand on of Red Bull, and I think if they'd have said no, then the stewards might have been even more like harsh on him. They might have given like a 5 or 10 second penalty. Perez forgot about me, I think. Yeah, poor Leclerc. Poor little Leclerc. I don't think he was at fault there. He just sort of he tried to keep as much space he could. He did actually come into contact with the wall as well, because Perez just sort of slowly shuffled him over towards the left. Here we go. Another red flag. How long has this Grand Prix been? When did I start streaming? I started streaming at 5. We've been going for an hour and 37 minutes. and we've seen 16 laps of racing. My goodness me. Here we go again. Woo. Here we go. I was nervous for that first red flag. Now I'm even more nervous because I know what could happen. I know the disasters that can occur after a red flag. This track, very dangerous. Yeah, it does. I think the problem is, it's not so much that it's super dangerous. It's another one of those, it's a street circuit, right? It has that street circuit vibe in that everything is so close. There's no runoffs. And, usually where we'd see maybe, especially with that, the Leclerc incident, let's say, with Sergio Perez, usually where we'd see just, Leclerc get pushed off wide and maybe onto another bit of tarmac, a little bit off the track. Instead, it's a wall. I think is the issue that we have with these kind of tracks. They're not inherently dangerous. They just don't have they're not forgiving. They're not very forgiving at all. Yeah, a little bit like Baku, Singapore, Monaco. Like they're really unforgiving tracks when it comes to these. Nearly 2 hours and 16 laps. Well, we've only had an hour of racing, right? Because I do stream for half an hour before the race. So we've only had an hour and 9 minutes of track. But we have only seen 16 laps in that hour and 9 minutes. Here we go. At least it's not Spa. Yeah, I'd say Spa is more dangerous, to be honest. That up the hill section in Spa is just crazy. Absolutely crazy. It's mad. We've got 30 odd laps to go, lads. Still got 34 laps to go. If you haven't liked, if you haven't subscribed, what are you doing? Get involved. Leave a like, subscribe. Lots of Formula 1 content coming up, especially over the winter break. Lots of videos coming your way. 10-minute warning. Oh, how about a 1-minute warning? Because we're about to be underway very, very soon. Yeah, literally a minute's time. All the drivers are back in the car. Keats and Mazepin's garage there. The Haas guys packing up early in this one. They'll be headed to the final race a little bit before everybody else, by the looks of things, as Mick Schumacher and Mazepin both out of this Grand Prix. Eau Rouge, yes, Mallory. That's the one I'm looking for. Poor Lando. Yeah, Lando is now the last running car in this Grand Prix. So Russell, Perez, Mazepin, and Mick Schumacher all out of this Grand Prix. They keep showing that Mazepin crash, and it just makes me jump every single time because it's like classic F1 game that where you like brake check somebody and they just into the back of you. F1 infographic says he was in third. No, Hamilton's in second now. No, he's in third behind the safety car, but it's another standing start by the looks of things. So Hamilton will take the second grid slot on the left-hand side of the track. Oh no, Max Verstappen's actually just going to let both of them by under the safety car by the looks of things. Wow. That'll be one of those things that is shown on the replays for years to come, isn't it? Be one of those things that is definitely shown on the replays for years to come. Max Verstappen having to let Lewis Hamilton past under the safety car. Ricciardo podium. Yes, Ben, you're talking my language. I mean, you can come again. You can come again. I'm hyped. I'm hyped. Max Verstappen again beside Lewis Hamilton at the start of this Grand Prix. They so nearly came together in that turn one. Ooh. Hamilton asking why they're not on the medium compound. Obviously, Max Verstappen has gone onto the medium compound. So Max Verstappen going a little bit different to his title rival Lewis Hamilton. Safety car in and a standing start for the drivers. So many standing starts in this year. Standing start obviously in Hungary earlier on in the year as well, where we saw Lewis Hamilton on the wrong tyre. Will he be on the wrong tyre again today? Very, very interesting. Haas going to retire next year? Nah, they'll be back. Back and ready. Hello, Nathaniel. You're right, mate. Bad luck for Lando? Yeah, tell me about it. Just seems like bad luck all the time for Lando at this point. Just getting used to it. Just getting used to it at this point. Last call for bets and another red flag. Who was it? Theo said like 3 red flags and a safety car. Oh no, he said 3 safety cars and a red flag. Actually only had 1 safety car. 2 red flags already. Here we go then. Up towards turn 25 currently. Just seeing Esteban Ocon going around 26 and coming to the final corner 27 before coming to the start-finish straight. Esteban Ocon's going to lead more races in this year than most other drivers. He led pretty much the entirety of the Hungarian Grand Prix. Now he might even get another few laps leading here in Saudi Arabia, the Jeddah Grand Prix. 16 laps completed and another standing start for them. The Alpine Garage hold their breath as Esteban Ocon is going to be leading another race. Lewis Hamilton starts on second again. Got an absolutely electric start last time. Hence why getting in front of Max Verstappen. Can he do it again? Can he get another really good, fast start in that Mercedes car? Max Verstappen starts in third. His title challenger and on the medium compound tyre. Possibly because they couldn't get those hards to work for a standing start. And going for a medium instead. Ricciardo, Bottas, Gasly, seeing Leclerc just take his position on the track with Giovinazzi splitting the 2 Ferraris. Carlos Sainz in 9th. Vettel, our final points runner in 10th place. Raikkonen, Tsunoda, Alonso, Stroll, Latifi and Norris taking their positions behind. out of the Grand Prix. George Russell, Sergio Perez, Mazepin, and Mick Schumacher as well. The third start of the evening, the third set of lights we're going to see. It's 5 red lights, and they're out, and away we go again. And let's see, Lewis Hamilton comes across to cover Max Verstappen. Max Verstappen goes up the inside, though. Oh, and they go 3 abreast. Ocon and Verstappen touch again, I think. And Max Verstappen is now ahead of Lewis Hamilton then. Lewis Hamilton drops down into 3rd place, and Max Verstappen takes the lead of this Grand Prix. That has gone absolutely terribly for Lewis Hamilton and Mercedes. Max Verstappen jumping up into 1st place. Esteban Ocon keeps hold of 2nd, and Lewis Hamilton has dropped down into 3rd. A terrible start from Lewis Hamilton. Daniel Ricciardo's been able to keep hold of 4th. Where's Giovinazzi? Giovinazzi's managed to get up into like 5th place, I think. Yuki Tsunoda going around the outside of Charles Leclerc. Charles Leclerc in the Ferrari looking like a sitting duck at this point. He's lost places to Giovinazzi. He's lost places to Vettel and Tsunoda too. Oh my goodness me. Max Verstappen now leads the Grand Prix with Esteban Ocon in 2nd place. Hamilton needs to dispatch Ocon as soon as possible if he's going to keep in contention for this championship. Hamilton down towards turn 27. So it's Verstappen, Ocon, Hamilton, Ricciardo, Bottas, Gasly. Giovinazzi has been able to get in front of Charles Leclerc. As we're watching now, Lewis Hamilton going down towards turn 1. Massive slipstream from the Alpine. Can he get in front of him down into turn 1? Yes, he can. Lewis Hamilton gets himself back up into 2nd place in this Grand Prix. Ocon drops into 3rd as well. So Giovinazzi, Vettel's done exceptionally well as well to get up a couple of places. Yuki Tsunoda up into the points too. Let's have a little look. Hamilton tries to go across to cover Verstappen, and Verstappen just goes up the inside. Oh, and Hamilton does come into contact with Ocon there. Lewis had to try and get away from the Alpine car. Otherwise, it would have been really messy through there. But manages to get past him now instead. So Max Verstappen jumps from 3rd to 1st in one corner as Lewis Hamilton tries his best to cover him off. Just darts up the inside. I think Hamilton had eyes on Ocon. And Max Verstappen takes the advantage and takes the lead of the Grand Prix. Wonderful move from the Red Bull man. Crucial in the Drivers' Championship. Obviously, Sergio Perez out of this Grand Prix now. And Hamilton and Ocon did definitely come to blows. I think it's the front right, of Lewis Hamilton that comes into contact with the front left of the Alpine of Esteban Ocon. Ouch. That is not what you like to see if you're a Mercedes fan. But Lewis Hamilton does manage to get past Esteban Ocon down into turn 1 the next lap along. So now we have the tyre strategy battle that we were waiting for. Wow. So Leclerc, Sainz, Stroll, and Raikkonen all the way down behind the Aston Martin. Alonso, Norris, Latifi is how we're running at the back. Here we go then, guys. There is your updated running. Hamilton in 2nd place and already a 2.5 behind Verstappen. Incident, turn 3 incident involving everybody will be investigated after the Grand Prix. Amazing start if you're a Red Bull fan. Daniel Ricciardo also on for a podium behind Esteban Ocon now. Can the McLaren catch up to the Alpine? I really hope so. Charles Leclerc now running in 10th position. Not a great start for the Ferrari at all whatsoever. And Carlos Sainz running out of the points entirely in 11th place. Fastest lap from Max Verstappen, though. Hamilton's sticking with him, though. 1.2 seconds, the gap between the two. Remember, though, Hamilton on the harder compound tyre, Verstappen on the medium. I'm not sure the mediums are going to hold on to the end of this Grand Prix. Still 30 laps left to go. So Hamilton's tyres might come towards him towards the end of this Grand Prix. Max Verstappen on the radio. Has a lack of power, says Max Verstappen. Lack of power from Max Verstappen on the radio. Now, is that true or is that mind games? That's always the way with Red Bull and Mercedes. You never know. Max Verstappen, though, saying on the radio he's got some power troubles. Set a fastest lap of the Grand Prix last time around. Let's see how he does this time and whether it's any slower than his title rival. Verstappen, battery is just topping up. So lacking power because his battery just needs to recharge that little bit. Hamilton going absolutely to the wire, though. Very close to going over those curbs through the final sector. Coming around the last couple of corners now. Is not within DRS of Verstappen. Is DRS even enabled? No, it's not enabled yet, is it? It hasn't been 3 laps. But Lewis Hamilton yet to have that gap to Max Verstappen. Needs to obviously get within a second. And Hamilton now sets the fastest lap of the Grand Prix. So now just 1 second on the dot behind Max Verstappen. Can he force it? Just that extra couple attempts to get within DRS. It's a terrible start from Lewis Hamilton, actually. They're just showing a replay of the restart, and it's awful from Lewis. He's trying to cover Ocon, doesn't really cover Ocon in any sort of way, and also doesn't cover Max Verstappen either. Max Verstappen just jumps up the inside of the Mercedes car. Now, has has Lewis Hamilton got any damage on that front right tyre or the front right side of his front wing? I'll have to wait and see. Ricciardo 4th, Norris 15th. Yeah, it's been a bit 50-50 for us McLaren boys at this moment in time, isn't it? It's going very well for one, not so well for the other. And it's the opposite way around to what you usually think, especially looking at this season as a whole. Here we go then. Max Verstappen on the medium compound tyre. What's the gap moving into this final sector? 1.1 seconds. So Hamilton's still not quite within that second that he needs to be for DRS. Of course, DRS not enabled yet. Will be enabled as they come across the line. Is this the 3rd lap since the safety car and the red flag and the restart? At least we don't have another red flag. Yeah, that's very true. At least all 16 of these drivers were able to get round at least a couple of laps before we see an incident. I'm not sure that we'll see another red flag, to be honest with you. It'll be a mistake from somebody rather than an incident like we saw after the first red flag. I haven't double-checked, actually. I'm assuming Russell, Perez and Mazepin are all okay. We saw, obviously, Checo walking around outside of the car, and George Russell got out of the car as well, so I assume all 3 are all okay. Lando swapped with Daniel after Sochi. Here we go. DRS is enabled then. So now can Lewis Hamilton get within a second of his title rival? Lewis Hamilton's just put in a terrible first sector. Like literally one of the worst first sectors I think he'll probably put in this afternoon. Which is a shame for him. He's now 1.2 seconds behind Max Verstappen. Do I think Hamilton should have gotten a grid penalty for holding up Mazepin? No. Not for me, I'm afraid. Lewis Hamilton 0.2 of a second faster than Max Verstappen in the second sector, though. So we could see him maybe not DRS this lap, but possibly next lap if he can get a little bit of a better first sector together. Those two have just driven off into the distance by themselves. They're 6 seconds ahead of Ocon in 3rd place. Just disgusting how quick these two are compared to everybody else, isn't it? Ocon and Ricciardo currently running 3rd and 4th. Bottas in 5th, having a look at the McLaren car, not quite able to do so. Gasly in 6th place. Giovinazzi in 7th. Carlos Sainz and Charles Leclerc, actually, have just swapped places. I don't know whether that was Carlos Sainz overtaking Charles Leclerc or team orders. We'll have to wait and see a replay on that one. Oh. And Yuki Tsunoda's crashed. Yuki Tsunoda has crashed. Oh dear. Can he get back to the pits with that? Yuki Tsunoda with his front wing stuck under his tyre. And the brakes are on fire. Oh my goodness me. Oh no, he has reversed out. Will there be another safety car to get that wing off the track though? Ooh, he does manages to get going again. Virtual safety car. Virtual safety car. Wow. What happened here then? Oh, Carlos Sainz did manage to get ahead of Leclerc by the looks of things. Yuki Tsunoda comes into contact with Vettel actually. Comes into contact with Vettel. Oh, and Vettel, yeah, just cuts across the front. Aston Martin, Yuki Tsunoda coming into contact with him as he comes back around. Oof. Oof. Virtual safety car, though. Did Charles Leclerc manage to get in front of Carlos Sainz again? Oh, we're about to literally see. Here we go, side by side. Oh, I had to go miles off the track, though, to Charles Leclerc. But did manage to keep the position. Whether or not he'll give that back to his teammate at some point, we'll have to wait and see. So Verstappen, Hamilton, Ricciardo, Gasly, Giovinazzi. Yes, then Leclerc and Sainz have managed to move up here because Tsunoda and Vettel came into contact with one another. So Leclerc and Sainz, we've then got Stroll actually has made up his position as well. And Vettel. And then Raikkonen. Alonso, Norris, Latifi. So we're now waiting to see virtual safety car. It does look like Yuki Tsunoda's been able to get back around to the pits. He has indeed. He's been back around to the pits as Yuki Tsunoda. And we are underway. Green flagged. Here we go then. Lap 24 of 50. So we're almost halfway through this Grand Prix. Feels like it's been a very long time. DRS is enabled as well. Just because it was a virtual safety car. So Lewis Hamilton now has the opportunity to get within DRS of Max Verstappen. We were waiting to see whether he could. He's 1.08 seconds behind Max Verstappen. So he's so close to that DRS zone. Can he do it on lap 25 of this Grand Prix? Let's see. Oh, Carlos Sainz has been given that position by Charles Leclerc. It's all very wholesome down at Ferrari, isn't it? Between the two of them. They do seem to just get on with one another. Giovinazzi 10 seconds ahead of the Ferraris. Yeah, I know. He's absolutely flying in that Alfa Romeo. Could pick up some real good points today. With the likes of Sergio Perez and Russell out of the race. And obviously everybody else struggling a little bit. Wow. Lewis Hamilton, 1.3 seconds the gap to Max Verstappen. 9 seconds, though, the gap between Hamilton and Ocon in third place. And Alonso, something gone on with Alonso? He's just dropped a couple of places to Norris and Latifi there. So, has Alonso pitted? Can't have pitted. Something's gone wrong with Alonso, but I don't know what. Verstappen sets the fastest lap of the Grand Prix, and then Hamilton sets an even faster lap just behind him as we enter lap 26 of the race. Hamilton now within DRS. Here we go. Here's the Fernando Alonso incident. I was a little bit worried. Oh, he does Spins, loses the back end. Manages to just keep it out of the wall, though. Fernando, it's not been great from him this weekend. Lewis Hamilton, fastest lap then of the Grand Prix. Can he get within DRS of his title rival? Obviously, the harder compound tyre, you'll assume, are going to last a little bit longer. But also, we've got Hamilton going very, very long on these. And in the dirty air of the Red Bull in front as well. Could be very interesting between those guys at the front. Lots of tyre strategy available to them. Lots of different incidents left to come, I'm sure. Lando Norris is making up a couple of positions on Raikkonen. So it looks like Raikkonen might have made a problem for himself as well. And Vettel going slow, and yeah, Vettel might be out of this Grand Prix by the looks of things. As Lewis Hamilton laps Yuki Tsunoda with Max Verstappen. Here we go then. All eyes peeled on Lewis Hamilton, just 0.8 of a second behind Max Verstappen. Yuki Tsunoda given a penalty for that incident with Vettel as well. I need to redo the thing. Where are we? So Stroll, now Norris behind Stroll. I think Latifi is stuck behind Norris. He has indeed. And Vettel is then slotted himself in there. Raikkonen, Alonso, Tsunoda. Our driver's still running. Raikkonen in the pits then. So loses out to Alonso. In the penultimate Grand Prix of his Formula One career. Kimi Raikkonen really not having a lovely time of it. Has to change his front wing. And yeah, new front wing for Kimi Raikkonen and the Alfa Romeo team, making it look like hard work, unfortunately, for Kimi in the pits there for 16 seconds. So let's have a little look. What actually happens between those two? Some sort of incident between Sebastian Vettel and Kimi Raikkonen. Yeah, Kimi Raikkonen going really, really deep and actually interlocking tyres, interlocking front wings. Oh, it's very messy between the two very experienced guys, and they'll be upset at one another for that. They're good friends, Sebastian Vettel and Kimi Raikkonen, and some debris coming off the side of the Aston Martin there. Quite considerable damage to the right-hand side of the Aston Martin. So one of the stewards has to do a little sprint across the track. Another virtual safety car then. But it is... Oh, it's ending. Okay. The shortest virtual safety car I've ever seen. Managed to get the debris and get it out of the way. Race controlled, DRS enabled. Hamilton back on the chase behind Verstappen. With all these slowing down laps, these medium tyres looking better and better for Max Verstappen. Because obviously, every time they have to slow down, it just takes a little bit of that pressure off the tyres. And the degradation on them is just a little bit less on those slower laps. So Max Verstappen looking better on the medium compound tyre every time there is a little bit of a stop. Lewis Hamilton, though, still just 1 second behind his title rival. And now 10 seconds ahead of Ocon in third place. Just in a league of their own, those two. Just in a league of their own. I'm astounded every single weekend by how quick they can be. Ocon in a bid to getting a podium, though, I think is a little bit going under the radar, but doing really well in that Alpine to hold on to third place under pressure from Daniel Ricciardo in fourth. Just a couple of seconds, the gap between them, and then a couple of seconds again to hit Valtteri Bottas in 5th. Alonso on the radio asking about the debris in 6 and the debris in 10. Apparently quite a bit of debris on those two corners, according to the Spaniard. So will there be another safety car? Shuffle up the pack one more time. Get everybody back close together again. Alonso would massively benefit from that, to be fair, because he's dropped off a little bit from the back of the likes of Vettel and Latifi in front of him. If it ends like this, Hamilton will be, 14 points behind? Another virtual safety car. Another virtual safety car. Drivers must decrease by 40% of their speed, and it is turn 6, I think that is there, where there's another piece of wing. Come on, one of the marshals, super quick. Jump out there. Get it. Go get it. Go, 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 go. I want to see some racing. There's a little bit of debris there as well, where Kimi Räikkönen and Sebastian Vettel came together. But it is off the track, that debris. It's the debris on the track. It's not on the racing line, but it's still on the track as the marshal dives across and gets it. Wow, that's... Alonso really, really pushing for this safety car on the Alpine radio. I know you don't have skin in the game, but you talk calmly with a straight face. Yeah, I just trying to be neutral, Sarah. Trying to be neutral. Well, I am neutral. Like, I don't really mind who wins this championship, but I do love the fact that it is going all the way down to the wire. This track is mental, Josh. Mental. Like, the amount of incidents we're seeing. This is the first time we've been to Jeddah, and I'm looking forward to it next year already. It's the second race of the calendar next year. It's just after Bahrain, and I'm looking forward to it. I think it's going to be. I think if it's anything like this, with 2022 cars that could apparently go even closer to one another, yes, please. There's a lot to clear up, actually. There's a lot to clear up on turn 6. It's not good. It's quite a lot wrong with that. Verstappen goes super deep. Kimi Räikkönen doesn't really have the space. Comes back in on the... Yeah. Both drivers... Be interesting to see if the stewards give anyone a penalty or anything for that. Both drivers took massive amounts of damage. So they've probably ruined their own races there. But both of them seem like they're a little bit at fault for that incident. And from two of the most experienced drivers on the grid as well. You know, Sebastian... I know Kimi Räikkönen's been around for forever. But, you know, Sebastian Vettel's been around for a little while too. Lap 31 of the Grand Prix then starts underneath the virtual safety car. We're now looking at Max Verstappen just gaining a little bit on Kimi Räikkönen in front. Now, Max Verstappen, medium compound tyres. Can he go for the rest of this Grand Prix on them? We've seen that the degradation over the course of this weekend has been big. Very big. Indeed. And now, are we going to see? Love to see the touring cars here. I'm not sure. I think that would be absolute bedlam. That would be absolute chaos. Holy sugar. We're up to 5,163 subscribers. Just thought I'd check in on how today's video is doing. Obviously not the best to release a video whilst there is also a Grand Prix on. But, you know, We do what we do. The weight. It's the weights that kills me. I've already waited twice under a red flag. Now I'm waiting again. I'm waiting again. Max and Lewis. Going back. Max Verstappen just behind Kimi then. Max Verstappen gets a little bit of DRS from Kimi, doesn't he? Will there be another red flag so Max can change his tyres? I really hope not, because that is really what is keeping this in the balance for me. Those medium tyres, how long will they last? How does he get around this? Has he got the opportunity to go all the way to the end on these tyres, Max? Or does he have to change them around? Because obviously under the virtual safety car, I've had a few laps now under virtual safety cars, sort of sprinkled in since we restart around lap 20. I had a couple more laps under a virtual safety car. We are going slow. What lap is it? It's lap 32 of 50. So still quite a lot of this race to go. We're only sort of just over 60% of the way there. Max Verstappen on the radio asking if Kimi could hurry up. Because Lewis Hamilton is now gaining on Max Verstappen. Maybe Kimi Räikkönen wants to see an exciting final Grand Prix. He's like, you know what? It's my final season in Formula One. I want to see this championship go down to the wire. I'm going to hold up Max Verstappen. I'm going to let Lewis Hamilton past. Here we go. Of course not. Of course not. These guys are professionals. Like, they don't have that kind of forethought while they're in the car. But Kimi Räikkönen not going overly quickly. Yuki to bin it and cause a red flag to help Max. No, don't say these kind of things, Josh. Do not say these kind of things. We don't want another red flag. Don't want another red flag. The 2 red flags we've had have already caused enough chaos. We don't need a third one. If anything, a third one would actually ruin this race. Because then Lewis Hamilton and Max Verstappen would both be able to change tyres. They'd both come out on a fresh set of probably mediums or softs. And then it would just go to the Grand Prix. And we know that they're able to match each other's times pretty much blow for blow. Hazard is now clear. Race will resume. And we're underway. Joking. Thank you, Josh. Appreciate it. You just can't say these things. Otherwise, they might... You put it into the ether. It comes true. Max Verstappen does get past Kimi Räikkönen. But now Lewis Hamilton's going to have to wait a couple of corners to get past the Alfa Romeo. Kimi Räikkönen obliges and goes around the outside to let Lewis Hamilton through. And we're back underway in lap 33 of this Grand Prix then. So can Lewis Hamilton gain on Verstappen in these first few laps then? The tyres will be a little bit cooler than they would have wanted. But the harder compound tyre should start to sort of come into its own in the next few laps. Goes a lot longer than the medium here, or at least we expect it to. Obviously our first time round here, so all of it a little bit sort of guessing game and not 100% sure. But we saw obviously last time out in Qatar, when you guess, sometimes you get it wrong and sometimes those tyres don't last anywhere near as long as you thought they might. Here we go then. Hamilton does find a way through. He's 1.1 seconds off Verstappen. So needs to absolutely rattle it around these corners to get within DRS. Just needs to hone in on Max Verstappen. Maybe he's got a little bit more temperature in his tyres, the Mercedes car. And Lewis Hamilton going very well indeed through this first sector. Last lap, Lewis Hamilton was 0.9 seconds faster than Max Verstappen. My goodness me. I don't care as long as it takes him to finish first. Here we go then. Lewis Hamilton, 1.5 seconds now the gap. Hamilton really is struggling to follow through those slower-ish, I mean, I say slower, slowish corners through the first sectors or so, but then makes up so much time through these sort of really high-speed corners towards the back end of the track. That's where it counts, really, because that's where the DRS zones are too. So can Lewis Hamilton get within that second over the next couple of laps or so? The gap to Ocon down to 20 seconds in third place. So these two just playing by themselves for the rest of the Grand Prix. Daniel Ricciardo in fourth. Hamilton sets the fastest lap of the Grand Prix behind Max Verstappen then. Doesn't manage to get DRS though, is still just over a second outside of that position in first place. Max Verstappen and Lewis Hamilton start lap 35 of the Grand Prix. All the teams can do is watch and wait to see what their drivers can do. Lewis Hamilton absolutely rattling it through these corners, leaving nothing on the table. So close to all of those curbs and walls throughout that first and second sector. Oh, there's another bit of debris on track. Where's that come from? Where has that come from? Why is there so much bloody debris, man? I just want to see these cars go for it. Here we go then. Lewis Hamilton, 1.1 seconds the gap. DRS zones coming up for him. Not within the DRS though this time around. Fastest sector from Lewis Hamilton in the second sector. Literally just over a second. 0.04 of a second keeping Hamilton away from getting DRS. Another fastest lap for Lewis Hamilton. Gets to 0.7 of a second now. Looks so quick through that last sector, does Lewis Hamilton. Just needs to keep on the back of Verstappen. Oh, and it's another virtual bloody safety car. For God's sake, man. So stop-start. So stop-start. This would be a great track. We could just have like 10 laps of racing. Where did it come from then? Was it an Aston Martin? Don't know. Possibly off of Sebastian Vettel's car, I think. Another bit of debris. And the safety car ends. Lovely. Let's go. Sadly not able to watch this race. Thank you, David. Appreciate that, mate. No worries. That's what I'm here for. It's getting silly now. Yeah, I know. It's just a virtual safety car every couple of laps. Like, every time we're just, like, getting there. Like, no. Hold your excitement just for another couple of sectors while we get this bit of debris off the track from a car that is basically irrelevant in this race now. Like this, Vettel in 14th is not going to cause any sort of, like, problems for anybody. So... oh, Lewis Hamilton goes so deep in 27. Gets a real cutback, though. He does get DRS, though. Lewis Hamilton is now within the DRS of Max Verstappen. He's gaining and gaining down towards turn 1. He's going to go around the outside. It's Lewis Hamilton for the lead of the Grand Prix. Oh, and Max Verstappen has to bail out. Lewis Hamilton has to bail out too. And they're going to have a little bit of a reset then. That is so silly from both of those two drivers, both of them knowing that a collision would be costly. Wow, Lewis Hamilton decided to go around the outside then, has so much speed through that final sector, carries it all the way around the outside, cuts in, and oh, Max Verstappen does touch Lewis Hamilton's car. I'm not sure. Oh, there's a massive snap of understeer from Verstappen. Verstappen completely loses the rear end of his car and has to sort of cut across. Oh my goodness me. Verstappen has stayed ahead, though, and is carrying the speed now around the final couple of sectors. Is Hamilton going to be within DRS again? Is the talking point. Wow! Lewis Hamilton's gained massively. Oh! They've collided. Max Verstappen and Lewis Hamilton have collided. Lewis Hamilton hits the rear end of the Red Bull. Verstappen was told to give the place back, was going so slowly, and then Hamilton collides with the Red Bull. Oh my goodness me. What was that? From the Red Bull and Mercedes cars. Hamilton catching up to Verstappen. Verstappen just stops in the middle of the track, and Hamilton can't do anything. Hamilton has to try and weave out of the way of the Red Bull and hits into the rear left of the car. Oh my goodness me. The front right of Hamilton's car, massive damage. Huge damage to the front right side of Hamilton's car. And Verstappen, that is naughty from Verstappen, I think. Toto Wolff absolutely loses it in the Mercedes garage. That's going to be under investigation, as well as the turn 1 incident between the two. Max Verstappen and Lewis Hamilton collide for another time in this championship. There's another twist in the tail. Both drivers are still running. Max Verstappen is still running in first place, but Lewis Hamilton now 2 seconds behind his title rival. It looks like the damage is not too catastrophic for Lewis Hamilton. But I think Max Verstappen might have to give that place back to Lewis Hamilton. But it's whether or not Lewis Hamilton can keep going with the damage to his car. Wow, okay. This is going to be interesting. Very interesting indeed. Whilst we sort of wait for a little bit, Carlos Sainz has been able to get in front of Giovinazzi, and Norris has been able to get in front of Stroll during all of that madness. Is that all? Stroll, Latifi, Alonso, Vettel, right? Yeah, sure. People calling for black flags as well. Valtteri Bottas, Daniel Ricciardo having a go. Daniel Ricciardo lost a place to Valtteri Bottas there. Oh, but then Ricciardo coming back at him. Very nice between Bottas and Ricciardo. Now, Max Verstappen and Hamilton still under investigation. We're still waiting to hear. Hamilton now 2.5 seconds behind. Here we go. Lewis Hamilton's just has no idea, right? He's just confused. He's wondering what on earth Max Verstappen's doing. Max Verstappen slows down really badly, and also is right in the middle of the track. Like, if you're giving a position to someone, you pull over to one side or the other. It's literally right in the middle of the track is Max Verstappen. The way you win a championship, crash into your rival when you have a lead in the points. Goku, I don't want to be that guy, but I think that might have been what we just saw. Daniel Ricciardo trying to defend from Valtteri Bottas, though. Now, let's have a little look at these two. Valtteri Bottas comes along then. Is he going to be able to overtake the McLaren car? It does look like he's going to be able to get it done this time, and does indeed. Bottas gets in front of Daniel Ricciardo. Remember, Ocon still running in third place. The sort of story that's going under the radar is the Alpine again on the podium for 2 races in a row with 10 laps. So we're on lap 40 of 50, and Hamilton on the radio. Verstappen has been told to give the place back. Verstappen has been told to give the place back according to the Mercedes radio. So Max Verstappen currently 2 seconds ahead of Hamilton and quite a bit of road between them. So let's see, will he give that place back to Lewis Hamilton? And then can Lewis Hamilton hold on for a victory? Because 10 laps left to go. And the Mercedes car has got damage to the front right wing now. Don't know how much damage that caused to the Red Bull car. Mercedes on the radio to the FIA. Very, very unhappy with the FIA. Mercedes saying that they weren't given the information in due time. And Max Verstappen isn't slowing down enough to actually give that place back to Lewis Hamilton. Now, if I'm Max Verstappen here, I think I just give the place back to Lewis Hamilton, to be honest with you. Like, now. Because then you've got more laps to maybe mount a bit of a charge at him. Whereas at the minute, Max Verstappen is not giving the place back. And possibly could get a worse penalty because of it. 1.6 seconds, the gap between the two cars. So it's come down a little bit. But still, Max Verstappen not really giving the place back in the way that you'd expect. Max getting a pen. I mean, you'd assume Max is going to get a pen. As they're waiting for a decision, because Mercedes have been told that they can have the place back. Max Verstappen hasn't let Lewis Hamilton pass, though. Max Verstappen slowing up, though, a little bit and a little bit at a time. Hamilton sets the fastest lap of the race. But 1.3 seconds still the gap to Verstappen. We see, again, a replay of what happened on lap 37 between the two. Max, I don't know. Max does actually pull to the right-hand side of the track. It's there, though. He goes into the middle. It's there as they're actually coming to the end of the corner in lap 26, 25, 26. It's there. He juts over to the left-hand side a little bit and just goes into the middle of the track. And for me, if you're giving a place to somebody, you don't come back towards the middle. But my goodness me. Lewis still hasn't been given that place back, by the way. We're on lap 42 now of the Grand Prix. If Lewis gets away with this, I'm personally going this is loyal to Paris to advocate the rules for Max. I don't know, man. I think this could be one of those ones that goes down as another one of those injuries. Oh, Verstappen lets Hamilton by. Verstappen. And then goes down for a lunge up the inside and leads the race. So Verstappen let Hamilton by for all of 0.5 of a second, not even, and now takes the lead again. Max Verstappen has the time penalty then. Max Verstappen has a 5-second time penalty. So that is the briefest lead I've ever seen given to a driver after they've let him through. But Verstappen now has a 5-second penalty. So as long as Hamilton can remain within 5 seconds of Verstappen, he'll be okay. But Verstappen on the medium compound tyre. Hamilton with a bit of damage as well. Oh my goodness me. So Verstappen does give the place back to Hamilton, but then instantaneously darts up the inside of turn 27. Incident in turn 27 involving 44 and 33 will be investigated after the race. So that incident between the two investigated after the race. And a 5-second penalty for Verstappen for leaving the track and gaining a position on Lewis Hamilton. Lewis Hamilton, though, having a go at Max Verstappen down into turn 27. And Hamilton has the lead of the Grand Prix. Oh, my goodness me. Oh, wait. My TV's going to turn off. No. You know, when you haven't done anything on your TV for like 5 minutes, so it just gives up. I don't know how to... There we go. There we go. There we go. So Hamilton has the lead of the Grand Prix. And Max Verstappen is now second and has a 5-second penalty. Oh my mamma mia. Goodness me. Oh my days. And it's going off in the chat as well. Yeah, exactly. Let him pass before the DRS detection zone. Well, it wasn't even before the DRS detection zone. It was just before the corner. So as soon as he got up in the inside, and then Hamilton takes the place back. Did Verstappen give him that place? Did he let him through? I'm not sure if he let him through. Hamilton just goes super deep. Does push Verstappen off of the track that time, to be fair. Wow. This is astounding. This race is flipping crazy. I don't even know how I'm going to write a review for this race. I might just go, might just stare at the camera for 10 minutes, just shrug. Wow. So now, what do they do? Verstappen currently second place, 2.2 seconds the gap to Hamilton. Think he's sort of given up on winning this Grand Prix, to be honest with you. I think he's going to just stick to second. Now, does he try and get the fastest lap of the race? He's on the medium compound tyres, and you'd assume the mediums are actually sort of going off towards this point in the Grand Prix. Yes, there's been lots of virtual safety car laps, but they've done a lot of laps on those tyres still. Lewis Hamilton leads on the harder compound tyre. So if it finishes like this, we go into the final race of the season with both drivers on equal points. Verstappen will be ahead on race wins. That is mental. This season, wow. Mercedes on the FIA. And now the FIA saying that the Mercedes might have breached sportsmanship. Oh my goodness me, when he apparently pushed Max Verstappen wide on turn 27. So Hamilton with a little slap on the wrist, but sets the fastest lap of the Grand Prix. Oh my goodness me. Bottas now 1.7 seconds behind Ocon, by the way. So possibly a little bit of an opportunity for Ocon to do, for Bottas to get himself onto a podium. If he can make up some time on Ocon in these last 5 laps. Max Verstappen, though, dropping really far behind Lewis Hamilton at this point. Sebastian Vettel's in the pits, though. So Sebastian Vettel now at the back of this pack. I'm going to be honest with you, this is just nonsense. This is just nonsense. Verstappen on the radio saying his tyres are gone. So I did think these medium compound tyres might not last it. And Vettel's retired from this race. Vettel has retired from this race then. There we go. I'll update it a little bit for you. But I just want to... Latifi, Stroll, Norris. Yeah, that'll do. I know, Giovinazzi's behind Leclerc. Sainz, Gasly, Ricciardo, Bottas, Ocon. Yeah, there we go. Okay. So Verstappen, his tyres are absolutely shot to bits. He's 4.5 seconds behind Hamilton. Hamilton should win this Grand Prix fairly comfortably. Unless something really drastic happens. Also looking really good for Mercedes in the Constructors' Championship, as Bottas is in 3rd, Hamilton's in 1st, so they're going to make up lots and lots of points, obviously, with Perez out of this race. 5 drivers out of this race. And Bottas being given the attack. Bottas now within a second of Ocon. The dream of back-to-back Alpine podiums might be coming to an end. Oh, the front wing end plate of Lewis Hamilton's car just came off. It's the front wing end plate. Had been a... I'm not... Yeah, it is okay, though. Just a little bit of the end plate came undone. Yeah. Antonio, you're spot on, mate. You're spot on. How on earth is what Lewis Hamilton did borderline black and white, and yet Brazil was nothing. Crazy, isn't it? Absolutely crazy how these decisions just swap. Spicy race today from Jim. Hello, Jim Brown. Appreciate you dropping by. Yeah, it's been a very, very spicy race indeed. The Constructors' Championship is all but done then, isn't it? If it ends like this. Oh my goodness me. So Verstappen's tyres. What if Verstappen's tyres just blow up, by the way? Like Verstappen, like we saw in Qatar that if you go too long on a set of these tyres, even the hard compounds just will disintegrate underneath you. Is Verstappen now just nursing these tyres as much as he possibly can? I think so, maybe. I think Verstappen is just going to be nursing these tyres and doing a slower time as he possibly can over the last 3 laps. Valtteri Bottas then gaining and gaining on Ocon, having a little look down towards turn 1. Is the Mercedes going to have a go? No, waits instead to go for another one. Could be on for another Hamverbot podium, but Ocon manages to keep the place this time around. Ocon's got another couple of opportunities, though, to have a little look. Hamilton on the radio. Oh, Hamilton asking if he's backing off to get fastest lap, but doesn't look like Verstappen's going to be setting any fastest lap times anytime soon. His tyres are shot to pieces. I told you that the mediums wouldn't last. Told you. Don't want to say I told you so, but I did literally just say I told you so. Lewis Hamilton then comes across the line. 2 laps to go in this Grand Prix that has been chaos, to say the least. Verstappen coming across the line. 2 laps left on those medium tyres. Will they make it? Being so gentle on the curbs, Max Verstappen, through turn 1 and turn 2. Just a dainty little touch of the curb on turn 1 and as far away from the curb on turn 2 as he dares be. There's so much to talk about after this race, isn't there? And it's all Hamilton and Verstappen. Valtteri Bottas then having a little look at Ocon again, not able to do so. It's got to be now or never for Valtteri Bottas. Remember, Valtteri Bottas, though, on the medium compound tyre, that might be just dropping off a little bit towards the end of this Grand Prix. A little bit like Verstappen's in front. Crazy but silly. Yeah, Josh, it's been everything. It's had all sorts, hasn't it? It's had safety cars. It's had red flags under controversial conditions. It's had other red flags because of incidents between drivers. It's had virtual safety cars left, right, and centre. It's had debris, collisions. It's had championship rivals battering into one another. It's had black and white flags being threatened from the FIA. It's had everything. And yet, Lewis Hamilton is coming around the final corner for the final lap. Who do I want to win the championship? I really don't mind. But I'm just all for it being this exciting all season. Ocon is who we've got our eyes on. Lewis Hamilton starts the final lap as what has been a astounding, phenomenal, astonishing, I don't have the words for it, first Grand Prix here in Jeddah. Verstappen in second place starts his final lap of this amazing weekend of racing. Those two at this point will go into the next race of the season. Race 22 on equal points. My goodness me. Bottas does make a move on Ocon. Oh, and Bottas has been able to get in front of the Alpine of Ocon. Dear, oh dear. Oh, and Leclerc's been able to get in front of Sainz too. It's gonna be a long slog. It's been a long race. It's been a long weekend for Mercedes. There's been everything. There's been qualifying controversy. There's been traffic. There's been red flags and safety cars. But Lewis Hamilton is the driver that is going to come home in first place round the final corner into the final straight towards the checkered flag. And there it is, Lewis Hamilton, the winner of the inaugural Saudi Arabian Grand Prix. He will stand at the top of the podium. Max Verstappen comes home in second, just about holds on to those medium compound tyres by the looks of things. They look absolutely ragged. Ocon's in third. Ocon's been able to get the place back. Has Ocon been able to do it? Oh! Did Bottas get it? Bottas got it. Literally on the line. Oh, wow. Valtteri Bottas on the line. A tenth of a second ahead of Ocon. Ocon unlucky. Daniel Ricciardo comes home in fifth. Pierre Gasly sixth. Charles Leclerc in seventh. Carlos Sainz in eighth place. Giovinazzi's going to pick up a couple of points in the Alfa Romeo in ninth place. And Norris, the final points finisher in 10th. Stroll, Latifi, Alonso, Tsunoda, Raikkonen, Vettel. Vettel didn't finish the Grand Prix. Just those guys. Vettel, Russell, Perez, Mazepin, and Mick Schumacher all out of the race. Oh my God. Bottas just sneaks it. Wow. Toto Wolff gives the round of applause to Valtteri Bottas, who just sneaks in front of the Alpine car. What a race we've had. Leave a like for this. What has been the race of the season, in my opinion. It was phenomenal. And Mercedes now lead in the constructors by a considerable margin, but it's the drivers' championship that everyone will have eyes on. Both of these two on equal points with one race to go. Oh my God. Lap 47 was the fastest lap from Lewis Hamilton, so he did it even with a damaged front wing. Goodness me. Yeah, Mercedes have got that Constructors' Championship. I think technically, they can still lose the Constructors' Championship if they both don't finish the Grand Prix and things like that. But it's pretty much over in the Constructors, to be honest, with Bottas taking that third place and obviously Sergio Perez being out of the Grand Prix. That is a huge swing for Mercedes in a championship they were already leading. But 369.5 points. And Verstappen, not happy over the radio, but understands, says that he tried at least and gave it absolutely everything. Christian Horner on the radio. There'll be lots of talk over the course of the next week. There'll be lots of discussions between Toto Wolff, Christian Horner, and the FIA, I am sure. But as it stands, we go into the final race of the Formula One season with both title contenders on equal points. Thank you, Sarah. I appreciate that. I try my best. Sweating bullets. Yeah, I know. This race, I'm shaking. I'm literally shaking, and I'm not even a Mercedes fan or a Red Bull fan. Just had everything. It was just a phenomenal weekend of racing. This is what we are Formula One fans for. This is what we want to see. Controversy, the FIA, Christian Horner, Toto Wolff, headbutting one another continually. Lewis Hamilton and Max Verstappen going wheel to wheel in every single manner Title rivals collide once again. But it doesn't matter if you're a Lewis Hamilton fan. He's done it. The Mercedes carriage go mental. Did say Ricciardo would best Norris in this race? Yeah, and you were right. You're spot on. Maybe next time you put a bet on. Got one more race. You've got one more race. If you believe in yourself, go for it. But always bet responsibly. Always bet responsibly. Don't waste money. The last race is going to be a dogfight. It's going to be just something spectacular. Lewis Hamilton to his knees, exhausted by this race. Valtteri Bottas congratulates his teammate of 5 years. It's going to be the final time that we see those two in a Mercedes team together next time out. But oh my God. Unacceptable by Verstappen, Anna says. Dangerous driver. Are you a McLaren fan? Oh, sorry, are you a Mercedes fan by any chance? Here they are then. Max Verstappen is weighed and takes a little bit of a detour. Lewis Hamilton and Bottas just having a little chat behind the boards there. What is going through Max Verstappen's head? Came in to the weekend with a lead. After Mexico, everybody was saying it was all but over and Max Verstappen was going to be our world champion this year. Lewis Hamilton has defied the odds, in my opinion, and has come back exceptionally well. We're looking at Brazil, looking at last time out in Qatar, and now here in Saudi Arabia, has done everything he possibly can and puts himself on level points with Max Verstappen in this final season, in this era of Formula One, the era that has been dominated by Mercedes. They've won the Constructors' Championship, in my opinion. I know it's not mathematically done, but it's fairly done. And it's just the Drivers' Championship now. Can Mercedes do the double again, or can Max Verstappen hold on for another time and for his first ever win in the Drivers' Championship? It's been phenomenal stuff. If we want to head over to the Discord, we can have a little chat with you guys, get your opinions, and have a little discussion. Max Verstappen versus Lewis Hamilton. I'm sure there'll be some of you guys that have a big opinion on this. So I'm going to start a little room over on the Discord in a couple of minutes' time for people to get involved in and have a little chat. I'm going to leave it there, though, because Lewis Hamilton looks absolutely exhausted after that Grand Prix. Gave absolutely everything that he possibly could. Max Verstappen gave everything he could as well. And we're going to see those two on first and second on the podium again. But who is going to be first and second in the Constructors' Championship? Thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you for subscribing. I think we've hit nearly 5,200 during this stream. I'll just double check actually. We're on 5,167 subscribers at this point. If we could get that to 5,200 by the next Grand Prix, that would be absolutely phenomenal. I want to thank you guys again. It's been wonderful to spend an evening with you watching this incredible race. I will see you next time.